GNCC returns to RacerTV.com this weekend, and it is the 2023 champion, Craig DeLong, finally capturing his first win of the season, and he won on this property last year. Can he make it two in a row here today? Can Johnny Gerard keep the championship alive out in front while Stu Baylor tries to rebound here in round number 8? And it all starts right here, right now on RacerTV.com.
Are you ready to go? GNCC Racing!
Good afternoon and welcome to round number 8 of the 2024 Progressive Grand National Cross Country Racing Series, presented by Specialized, your AMA National Championship. We are here in Mount Morris, Pennsylvania for the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. Johnny Gallagher, these are better known really, I think, as Hollowed Grounds, High Point Raceway, just a stone's throw, literally across the road. You can see it from the track where we're at right now. This is the mecca of off-road racing, really of racing in general.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a GNCC racing fan and you followed it for any length of time, so much racing has happened in the hills surrounding Mount Morris here, whether it be not just GNCC, but off-road racing. There was a Sprint Enduro just a few days ago, just miles from here. So, yeah, it's great terrain, especially this week. With the rain that we got, the dirt is shaping up perfectly. So I think we're going to have some great racing action here today. Yeah,
going to be a good one. And as we reflect back, we had an extra weekend there in between, but it was finally Craig DeLong looking like the 2023 Craig DeLong that earned that number 1 plate. We saw it coming around before, Johnny. He was doing all the right things. He looked to be flowing better with the bike, with the track, and he turned that into a win in round number 7.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think since quite frankly, what even Craig DeLong would admit was a disaster of a start to the season, he's been building. He's been building and building and building week in and week out. Some freak occurrences and just some things that caught him and his team off guard early on in the season. And then we're building. He was just off the podium, and then it was like, okay, we're getting closer, and now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but working his way up to where the defending champion is suddenly in the conversation for race winners and gets it done, obviously, a few weeks ago in Ohio. So he had a great ride. I mean, really looked solid all day long and really kind of looked like he was almost cruising it in there at the end, and then, well, bam, here comes Johnny Gerard and thinking, hey, man, there's some points on the table. I'm going to try to snag him back, but he would not be denied. Craig DeLong able to get to the finish line first and grab the win.
Yeah, solid day for Craig, and of course Grant Baylor, rounding out the box with a third-place finish. I believe at least the second podium for Grant this season.
Third podium.
You're right, the third podium for Grant. So sensational ride by him. Now the other Baylor, Stu, not a great day. He was in it early and then just kind of continued to fade throughout that race. Johnny, what's going on with Stu at this point?
Yeah, I don't know, and he's left kind of some cryptic hints on social media, basically saying he'll be better, he's ready to fight, and that's surely what we're looking forward here to today. This is a rider that, I mean, is known for his grit. He's known for his fight. You can question a lot of things about a lot of racers, and even Stu himself. I'm sure there's things that people might question, but his want, his desire is one thing no one ever should be able to question. So the fact that he struggled as badly all the way back in 15th place overall, without an explanation, no bike problem, no outward injury. The thing that I had mentioned on the broadcast, I had overheard from mechanics is he just said, I'm bonking. That could be a fueling issue. When I say fueling in terms of what he's eating, drinking, it was kind of sneaky hot. We heard Craig DeLong say that. It was sneaky hot out there today. Maybe just got caught off guard a little bit with his hydration, but this is all speculation. We're going to find out today. Are we going to see the Stu Baylor that is back up in there, throwing elbows up front, battling for race wins? Or was there something more to what we saw a few weeks ago? We don't know, but we're going to find out real soon.
That's it. And of anybody that when you back them into a corner and you say, you can't do this or you're incapable of that, you say that to Stu Baylor, that's the moment he comes out and he starts getting wins. And at the same point, I was talking with Zach Heron on Friday about this. We're at that point of the season. We're knocking on the door of summer break. Snowshoe is next. 2 rounds left. You can pick any name in the top 10, the top 20. everybody has something they're ailing right now. They're banged up. Nobody is 100% right now.
Yep.
So you kind of throw it all out the window. And these next 2 rounds, this one especially, and snowshoe in a few weeks, this is about grit and determination.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it, too, is, you know, you kind of break the GNCC season into 2 parts. You have pre-snowshoe or including snowshoe, and then after summer break. And the way it shapes up, especially this year with, you know, a full 13-round series, we have 9 rounds up until the break, so you're a good chunk through that season. You've just got these last 4 rounds. So many times you hear championship contenders talking about, I'd really like to have, you know, this many point lead or a 1-race lead or whatever going into the summer break. It's just that insurance. And if you're Stu Baylor, you know, Johnny Gerard comes out and starts the 2024 season on fire.
Yes.
And then in rounds, would have been rounds 5 and 6, Stu Baylor takes massive chunks out of that points lead. 9 points, knocking it down 18 points in 2 races. And then with Johnny finishing second and Stu finishing 15th, you know, that points, we're only 1 point shy away from being a 1-race gap. It's now a 29-point gap. Ooh. So if you're Stu Baylor, there can't be another, you know, if you want that comfortability of going into summer break knowing that you're close, this has to be a good round today, and you got to back that up with another good one at snowshoe. And, you know, we've seen big points and swings in the gaps. We could see it again today, but he needs a good one today for sure to keep himself comfortably in this championship hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to show some love as well to Mike Wachowski. Finished just off the box. I believe a 4th place in the XC1 is going to be his best career finish today.
Absolutely.
Solid day for him. XC2. Building.
A fifth, and then a 4th.
Very good point.
I mean, he's there. I mean, I don't think it's long. We may be talking in a few hours to Mike Wachowski on the in the center or somewhere in an XC1 podium.
XC2, Johnny, obviously Liam Draper, Angus Reardon having a good day. Give us some of the highlights out of that one.
I mean, Grant Davis getting it done. Another win, you know, and extending, or I believe extending to near 20 points or right around 20 points is what his lead is in that XC2 championship. Liam Draper having a very solid day, and man, was he charging at the end of that one. Coming hard. Angus Reardon there in the number 3 spot. And those 3 guys there have been kind of the class of that field through the first 7 rounds. And we expect to see them come out and throwing blows again here today. Coda DeVore getting it done in that XC3 class. You know, considers himself a mud specialist. It was a muddy round. But, I mean, he's been winning races in that class in all the conditions this year. And no reason to think we won't see him up front again today.
Going to be a good one. We have set the stage from what we expect out of the riders today. What are we going to face as far as terrain is concerned? For that, we will throw it to our trail boss, Mr. Jared Bolton, for a Yamaha track description.
Well, thanks, guys, and welcome back to the Mason-Dixon. You know, this venue's only been part of the GNCC series. This is its 7th time here, but it's got deep-rooted connections to off-road racing in general. You go back to the early 2000s, Matthews Farm here actually hosted a couple of GNCC events, 2000, 2001, 2002. Went away for a few years. We came back in 2018, and boy, it's been awesome ever since. We're right across the street from the beautiful High Point Raceway, which is going to play home to the Pro Motocross Championship in just a couple of weeks. So this whole area is just a hotbed for racing. And the racetrack here, we call it Mason-Dixon for a reason. You start off on the Pennsylvania side. The trails are a little more open, a little more flowy. And then you're going to cross that Mason-Dixon line into West Virginia. The trails get tighter, more technical, a little bit rocky out there. And then you come back in Pennsylvania to finish it off. It's one of those times that I'm going to say there's a little bit of something for everyone, because that is really true here at the Mason-Dixon. And that's why so many people love racing here.
All right, thank you, Jared, for that Yamaha track description. That gives you guys an idea of exactly what the riders are going to be facing out there today. We're going to let Mikey Waynes head down to the starting line for some 10-second calls. We're going to get all the racing action underway, and you're going to be able to follow along with us all day today. Tune in live to racertv.com. We'll bring it all to you.
You know, when I take the bike out like this, all my stresses just melt away.
I hear that. This bad boy can fix anything.
Yeah, tough day at work. Nice cruiser sorts you right out.
When I'm riding, I'm not even thinking about my painful cavity.
Oh, you shouldn't ignore that.
And every time I get stressed about having to pay my bills, I just hop on the bike, man.
Oh, come on, man. You got to pay your bills.
You don't have to worry about anything when you're protected by America's #1 motorcycle insurer.
Well, you definitely do. Those things aren't related, so...
Ah, yee! Whoa, that is a vibrating pain.
Every generation believes they've invented the best way. With age comes wisdom. We've come to realize that every piece of knowledge is learned, passed down from those generous and patient enough to teach.
Bogging off the bottom. Let's take a look.
Legacy. It's not about leaving something behind to be remembered by. It's realizing that the future lies within the next generation.
Let's call tonight. All right.
The nature of true progress is humbly building something bigger than yourself. Rocky Mountain ATV MC. This is our legacy.
Unleash aggression, reliability, and premium quality with Kenda tires. Delivering exceptional performance on all types of vehicles. Automotive, ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, bicycles, trailers, lawn and garden, and even golf. Trust Kenda tires to guide you on your next adventure. Kenda, designed for your journey.
It takes commitment, passion, and endurance to make something great. Made by champions, for champions.
Progressive GNCC Racing is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive could save you hundreds of dollars on your automobile and motorcycle insurance. Specialized E-Turbo bicycles. It's you, only faster. RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready. Craig DeLong said, you know what, I got the number one plate for a reason. Let me go out here and put it on display for you folks on Racer TV today.
What will be a white flag waving, meaning one more lap around, and it will be the end of this one here today. Can Craig DeLong hold on to it? He's done everything right these last couple laps. He just keeps inching it out.
Craig DeLong, Johnny Gerard, Mano Imano.
I think if Johnny can maybe send it around the outside like he's trying to do there, and he just...
Oh, so close. Oh, if you're down on the finish line, get ready to lose your minds. It will be the number one, Craig DeLong, capturing his first win of the season aboard the Rockstar Energy Factory Racing Husqvarna. And Gerard says, dude, hell of a race right there. That was a ton of fun.
Never late.
GNCC is tough. It's a 3-hour race. 3 hours is a long time. Sometimes people say it's just racing dirt bikes. You just have to race on dirt bike dirt. It's simple like that, but at the same time, like at the level we're at, there's a lot more to it.
Bang!
There it is. Checkered flag flies, and it is the 3-4-2 Rockstar Energy Husqvarna of Craig DeLong.
That's my only job, is to come to the race prepared as I can be and be in good shape, and it's still not easy. I mean, as good a shape you're in, like it doesn't get any easier. It almost gets harder because you can push harder for longer.
Pulls it off, his second win in GNCC racing here at the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC.
It's like every race, conditions can be one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. And last year we had a real dust bowl. Year before, that was my first win in 3 years. So another place I do generally like, just conditions pending, depending on the
All right, and a good afternoon and welcome to everybody watching at home on RacerTV.com. As you tune in here to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC, we are ready to introduce our starting row for the XC1 Pro Class, riding to the line in accordance to points. The 969 out of North Carolina aboard the FMF Factory Racing KTM. Johnny Gerard. Rolling to the line next, the 514 out of Hodges, South Carolina, aboard the Rocky Mountain Red Bear Racing Kawasaki, Stu Baylor. Rolling to the line next, the number 3 out of Livingston, Tennessee, aboard the Coastal Racing Factory Gas, Jordan Ashburn. And rolling to the line next, coming off his first win of the season, the defending champion, the number 1 out of Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, aboard the Rockstar Energy Factory Racing Husqvarna, Craig DeLong. Rolling to the line next, the 314 out of South Carolina, aboard the Babbitts Online Monster Energy Team Green Kawasaki, Grant Baylor. Rolling to the line next, coming off his best finish in his XC1 Pro career, the 282 out of North Carolina, aboard the Phoenix Racing Honda, Mike Wachowski. Rolling to the line next, the 347 out of Jefferson, Georgia, aboard the Active Air Max Motorsports FXR-backed Husqvarna, Evan Smith. Rolling to the line next, the number 7 rider out of Australia, aboard the JS7 Sherco Racing back Sherco, Josh Strang. Rolling to the line next, the 356 out of Hollister, California, aboard the FMF Factory Racing Red Bull KTM, Dante Oliveira.
Rolling to the line next, the 2-1-2 out of Duval, Washington. Aboard the Am-Pro Racing Yamaha. He's rough, he's rowdy, Ricky Russell. And welcome to the XC1 Pro class here today. A rider out of Chile aboard the Phoenix Racing Honda, Rui Barbosa. Rolling to the line next, the 336 out of Elkin, North Carolina, aboard the Coastal Racing Factory Gas, Ryder Lafferty. Up next, the 178 out of Australia, aboard the Babbitts Online Monster Energy Team Green Kawasaki, Lyndon Snodgrass. And last but certainly not least, and a big welcome to the XC1 Pro class here today, the 981 out of Landrum, South Carolina, aboard the Liquid Moly Factory Beta, Jonathan Johnson. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your starting row for the XC1 Pro class here at the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. Couple of new names to the XC1 Pro class, but certainly not new names to the world of GNCC. Let's see how they stack up. Of course, Craig DeLong coming off the big win, his first of 2024. Now, Mixmaster Murphy filling in for DJ Judd, jumps into the Yamaha R Max 1000. And this is where we like to say, Mixmaster Murphy, remove the meat. As George Murphy makes his way off of the starting line with the Monster Energy Activation Transport. The adrenaline is going, the blood is pumping, and now all eyes will go down into turn number 1, where the maestro, Ricky Towery, will take the reins of this race. And we go as Ricky goes. Ricky Towery now steps out onto the track, takes a deep breath. He will step forward and let our riders know 1 minute. 1 minute until we're ready to go. Mason-Dixon, GNCC Racing. Steel City Medical Center Whole Shot Award up for grabs as Ricky now steps back out onto the track. And there it is, blue flag waves, blue flag waves. Shut them down, shut them down, shut them down. As we are just about ready to roll now, and I gotta ask you, Mason-Dixon, GNCC, are you ready to go? GNCC Racing. Oh, I know we can do a lot better than that. Listen, my voice is shot, but yours is not. This is the mecca of off-road racing. I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you ready to go? GNCC Racing! 10 seconds for row number 1, the XC1 Pro. Bang, and they're off. Oh, a good drive right up the inside by the 969 of Johnny Gerard, but going wide is Lyndon Snodgrass. Bang, there it is. Steel City Medical Center Whole Shot Award goes to the Babbitts Online Monster Energy Team Green Kawasaki of Lyndon Snodgrass as we reset the deck for the XC2 250 Pro class. And a Steel City Medical Center Whole Shot Award up for grabs here for the XC2. Angus Reardon, Cody Barnes, Liam Draper, Toby Cleveland, Brody Johnson, Jason Liscombe, Grant Davis, and Thad Duval. Ready to roll in 10 seconds. Bang, and they're off. Oh, look at the drive right there by Toby Cleveland. Can he turn it into a whole shot? No, checks up. It's going to go to Grant Davis. Grant Davis, the playboy himself, grabbing the whole shot and the early lead right there. As we turn our attention now to the FMF XC3 125 class. 10 seconds. Low Jack Cycle Sales whole shot award up for grabs. Zachary Davidson, James Jern III, Dakota DeVore, Sawyer Karatura, Jack Walker, and Joe Schreiber. Around turn number 1 they go. 7-1-9, and he lets them know that's Jack Walker on the beta out of Morrisonville, Illinois. Singing the sounds of our people. 10 seconds. 258. Lane Whitmer, Ryan Piper, Thor Powell, Cooper Jones, Bubs, Tasha, Jason Tino, T-Rex, Nick DeFeo, Gavin Simon, Hunter Bush, Will Siebenpiper, Nicholas Kutlis, and Mike DeLosa. Around turn number 1 we go. 5-1-8. Grabbing the whole shot and early lead. Is there anything that man can do? Love to see it. That was your open A class. That was Cole Whitmer. Here we go. 10 seconds. Bang, and we're off. This is your 250 A class. Got a couple papers crisscrossed right there. Sorry about that. That is the number 24, Lane Whitmer, grabbing that whole shot and early lead there. 4-stroke A lights is what I've got next. We'll see. Here we go. 10 seconds. Van Adams, Matthew Davis, Rivers Morris, Chase Landers, Ty Ely, Brady Bierbaum, Lane Smith, Ryan Amancio, Joshua Connor, Caleb Baltimore, Sean Myers, Cooper Davis. Oh, man, look at the fight right there. 199 on the back of the jersey. 10 seconds. Off and rolling. This is 4-stroke A lights. Man, this is 3-6-4. Joshua Connor gonna grab that whole shot and early lead. Blue flag waves, and we reset. Wait on the signal from Ricky Towery. 10 seconds. Bang, and they're off. 2-3-2. Doing it in style right there. I'm there. I'm here for it. My paperwork's all over the place right now. I don't know. It's all messed up. All right, here we go. Wait on the signal here from Ricky Towery. 10 seconds. Vet A30 plus, I believe. Let's see. Robbie Norwood, Kobe Rollison, Scott Hopper, Danny Holft. That's going to be the 468 Daniel Sims out of Greencastle, Indiana, grabbing that whole shot and early lead right there. Blue flag waves, and here we go. 10 seconds. And we're off. This is Senior A 40 plus. Joe Marsh, Frank Messina, James Bauer, Andy Shea, Darren Darmos, the 140 at James Bauer out of Elizabeth, Pennsylvania on that TPS suspension back ride. Going to grab the whole shot and early lead as we reset the deck now. And here we go. 10 seconds. Little pile up, big pile up in row number 1. Oh, whole shot taking his lunch money. It looked like the 169. That is open B. Chris Gates grabbing that whole shot and early lead as the blue flag waves. And a couple of riders getting tangled up just after the second turn right here. One rider back on their machine and rolling. Wait on the signal from Riggy Towery. Trying to get a machine fired up. He's beating the dickens out of it. Rub some dirt on it. He says, there it goes. Now we're smoking. We're moving in the right direction. Wait on the signal from Ricky Towery in turn number 1. And here we go. 10 seconds. Bang, they're off. Grabbing that whole shot, 5.57 on the bike, 9.10 on the machine. Yep, that's not on my paperwork either. Here we go, 10 seconds. There they go, 423 out in front. This might hit 150B, okay. We'll go with it. 406 grabs the whole shot. That is Jarman Lilly out of Tippecanoe, Ohio. On the KTM, grabbing that one. We reset, 10 seconds. Bang, flag flies, and we're off. Oh, look at the drive right there. No mistaking that. That's a 494. That's meatball. 4-stroke B lights. Chaos. Okay, that was like 4 pages back. Here we go. Flag waves, and we're just about ready now. 10 seconds. Bang, and we're off. Oh, look at that, side by side, 925. I think may have gotten it by maybe a wheel, if that. Mercy sakes alive, we're here for it. Love to see it, blue flag waves. And we are just about ready to roll. 10 seconds. Bang, and they're off. 401 out in front. I believe this is Vet B 30 plus. That's Michael Poe. No, it's going to be the 345. Michael Jarosco out of Fairmont, West Virginia. Grabbing that whole shot. An early lead. Ricky Towery, thank you, Derek. Ricky Towery got the flag waving, and we're ready to roll. 10 seconds. Bang, and we're off. 150 out in front on the number plate. It's a 442 on the helmet. Last row, Senior B 40 plus, and it'll be the 729 of Jason Frecker grabbing the whole shot in the early lead. Oh, Ryder goes down in turn number 2. Trying to get back to his machine. There goes track sweep. We've got a free and clear starting line. A wild start to this one. Going to be fun to see how round number 8 plays out. We'll take a short break and we'll get in a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more here from the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC.
You know, when I take the bike out like this, all my stresses just melt away.
I hear that. This bad boy can fix anything.
Yep, tough day at work. Nice cruise to sort you right out.
When I'm riding, I'm not even thinking about my painful cavity.
Oh, you shouldn't ignore that.
And every time I get stressed about having to pay my bills, I just hop on the bike, man.
Oh, come on, man. You gotta pay your bills.
You don't have to worry about anything when you're protected by America's #1 motorcycle insurer.
Well, you definitely do. Those things aren't related, so...
Ah, oh, that is a vibrating pain.
Every generation believes they've invented the best way. With age comes wisdom. We've come to realize that every piece of knowledge is learned, passed down from those generous and patient enough to teach.
Bogging off the bottom. Let's take a look.
Legacy. It's not about leaving something behind to be remembered by. It's realizing that the future lies within the next generation.
Let's call it a night. All right.
The nature of true progress is humbly building something bigger than yourself. Rocky Mountain ATV MC. This is our legacy.
Whatever you drive, however you drive. AMSOIL specially engineers lubricants to maximize power, performance, and protection in your vehicles, so you can work hard and play hard with confidence. Order online at amsoil.com.
Progressive GNCC Racing is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive could save you hundreds of dollars on your automobile and motorcycle insurance. Specialized e-turbo bicycles. It's you, only faster. Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com. Get ready.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Racer TV for the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. This is round number 8 of the Progressive Grand National Cross Country Series presented by Specialized. My name is Jackson Burrow, and I'm alongside Zach Herron and Ben Kelly here today to bring you today's racing action. Stay tuned with us as Zach takes us through the recap of the start.
Thanks, Jackson. Yeah, a little different scene than what we saw yesterday. We had some dust flying for the ATVs. We did get some sprinkles throughout the night last night, as well as at the start of that youth race. But all in all, I think it is going to make for a fantastic afternoon pro race as we take a look at a Specialized start recap. Look on the outside, the Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki of Lyndon Snodgrass taking the long way around and stealing that whole shot award. Just behind him, Mike Wachowski once again finds himself up towards the top of the field off the start. And I believe that is the 336 of Ryder Lafferty funneling into the second place spot. Just behind him, then it looked like one of the Ampro Yamahas there in XC2 250 Pro coming up next. All of our riders get a good start except for one. It looked like it was Liam Draper going to lead them in. Toby Cleveland actually leads them out of the first turn. But then look at this. Grant Davis slingshots around, and he is going to be credited with the whole shot in your XC2 class. So it was Davis followed by Liam Draper. Then Thad Duvall actually making a couple of quick moves as well on that Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki to move into third. Now the FMF XC3 125 Pro-Am class. And taking the outside, he cuts into the corner, and Jack Walker going to walk off with the XC3 whole shot. He takes a little look over the shoulder, a couple of celebratory revs it looks like as well, and he's got the 545 Sawyer Karatura just behind him as the rest of the XC3 class funnels in and gets ready to head off into the woods. Some off-camera corners starting off the show. It's a kind of a famous start out here at Mason-Dixon, and as we flash back to our leaders, it does look like it is one of the gas riders out front, Wachowski in the second place spot. And so maybe we lost our early race leader. There is one of the KTMs. We see, looks like Craig DeLong a little further back as well. Stu Baylor a little further back in the pack than he'd like to be. Rui Barbosa, Grant, Baylor, and the rest of the XC1 field. Here are your XC2 group. So it is still Grant Davis leading the way, followed by Draper. Then Thad Duvall in tow as well. Then that looks to be still Cleveland, possibly Barnes, Couldn't quite make out that last rider, but all of them still relatively close in tone. We saw this very similar yesterday as well, Jackson. All of your riders kind of bunched together as now it is Mike Wachowski, and that was actually Jordan Ashburn on that Coastal Racing Gas up there in the second place spot. There is your early race leader of Snodgrass in third. And there you see just the full freight train of XC1 riders. Welcome back to GNCC Racing for Ricky Russell. He's getting a lot of pressure from Stu Baylor early. And welcome to the XC1 class, Rui Barbosa on that Phoenix Racing Yamaha, jumping up and trying things out on the big bike. And there you see Grant Baylor.
And John Johnson.
I was about to
jumping up for XC1.
Yeah, jumping up as well. So a couple of new faces in the XC1 group. We welcome Ben Kelly into the booth. Ben, obviously you'd like to be out there on a motorcycle, but I heard you were doing some cycling, some pedaling around and checking things out. What did you see when you were looking?
Yeah, I saw a really good looking track. As you can tell by this camera shot, that little bit of rain we got was perfect, just what they needed. Going to be some wet, slick stuff from what the quads polished off, but as this dirt gets turned up from the bikes, they're looking to have a really good race course.
Now let's take a look at this Yamaha Racing track map, synonymous race out here for the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon. We've got some field sections, we've got some tighter wood sections as well, some hilly terrain as well, a lot of off cambers. And as somebody that's been there, done that in races, what are your opinions on the Mason-Dixon course?
Yeah, this is a good track. It's, not many rocks, not many roots. Majority of the track is clay, and this track usually makes for really good racing. I'd expect to see the pack stay pretty close today. The main line is pretty burnt in from the years of racing here, and with all these leaves, all this foliage coming in now, it's almost like you're racing through a tunnel. So it's going to be difficult to make passes out there. You're going to have to be a little aggressive, but I think that's going to make for an exciting show for all of us.
Absolutely, yeah. Going to give us a ton of action to call for sure as we wait for your leaders on screen. We take a look at the Yamaha Racing Live Drone. It looks like we've picked up the front of your XC1 pack, and just like you said, Ben, they kind of tuck in and out of this West Virginia PA foliage. Beautiful scenery when you're down on the ground, but makes it tough for us up in the sky. But nonetheless, we saw similars with the four-wheeler racing yesterday. You can't just have a pass hand to. You're going to have to take each and every position you want to get out here today.
Yeah, especially this is one of those tracks where there's not too many field sections, which lend you the opportunity to pass. The fields that we do have here are very off camber, like you said, with all these hills. So it's going to be difficult to try to run it in on any of these guys and set up a corner in the field. So we're going to have to see what these guys can do to make passes. But whether we say the track doesn't have a lot of passing or not, these guys always find a way to make it happen.
Somehow, some way, they get the job done. And yeah, it's a good point you bring up, the off-camberness of some of these areas. The start, the cameras just don't quite do it justice, just how steep of a hillside you're on. As if that wasn't difficult enough, the quads, they pack it down. Then we throw a little bit of water on top of it to make it that much slicker. As now we take a look at the past winners. Craig DeLong coming off of his first win of the 2024 season, back to a track where he grabbed one of his, I believe, 3 wins from last year. Got to think the confidence is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, definitely. He's starting to come into last year's form at this point of the series, and as we saw, he won this race last year, won the previous round 2 weeks ago, so I'm sure he's feeling more confident. This is a local race for him, so who knows, maybe he even slept in his own bed, and yeah, had a battle down to the wire here last year actually with Lane Michael, another local guy, and I don't think he's out there unfortunately this weekend, but we're going to see. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of guys fighting for that win, especially Stu Baylor after the rough round at the power line.
And it looks like Jordan Ashburn has taken over that #1 spot. So Mike Wachowski is going to settle into second with Lyndon Snodgrass third. We're here at the FMF PowerPoint. Jackson, you were actually able to go to the PowerPoint yesterday, and that's another spot where the cameras just don't quite do justice how steep that hill is.
No, not at all. I'm going to try to make my way out to the FMF PowerPoint once again here today. But yeah, a super, super steep hill. You have a hard time walking up and down it now as we see Jordan Ashburn back on screen.
So Ashburn making some quick moves and getting out to an early lead. Team manager, Hall of Fame inductee Barry Hawk out there just a little bit ago for the AM race. Who knows, might have given him some tips, some lines. So here's where you need to go and here's how you need to get the job done. Wachowski settling in that second place spot. I'm telling you what, we were talking earlier this weekend, just kind of here on property, Mike Wachowski becoming a regular at the front of the field, and look at those XC2 guys standing it up on the back wheel. That was some serious style points right there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That is how you do it, boys, making their way up the FMF power point.
And making their way into the backside of the XC1 field. They had found their way around both Grant Baylor and Rui Barbosa. So your top 2 or 3 in that XC2 field looking strong and looking to try to make some moves early to get up into the mix for the XC1 field. Who knows where they'll be on the overall rankings.
And going back to Mike Wachowski, we got to catch up with him earlier today for the Monster Energy pre-race report, and he was saying he was learning each and every week, getting up there into those top spots, trying to figure out the pace, trying to get everything figured out.
Definitely think he's on the right track for sure. He's got the starts, and it seems like with each round he gets those starts and he's up front a little longer and a little longer into the race. Won't be long before we see him running up front the entire 3 hours and maybe even jumping up on the podium. So we'll wait to get your leaders back on screen. A name I also saw, I believe it was 18 and 19, maybe 2017 and 18 on that past winner's chart, was Thad Duvall. Obviously moving back to the XC2 class. He was in the 3rd place position the last time we saw him on camera. Could be a breakout ride for the Kawasaki rider.
Yeah, definitely. He's been good all year, honestly. He's been running there in the XC2 podium, had a few mechanicals here and there, which I'm sure is frustrating. So looks like he's feeling good today, and he wants to put in a solid result for the team, for himself. You know, he's had a few rough years, but yeah, I don't think a podium is what he's shooting for. I'm sure he's shooting for that win.
Absolutely. He wants to be on the top step once again for sure. And you mentioned Stu Baylor coming off of a round that he would rather forget. Being you're a past champion, you're a championship competitor at heart. This is part of it, right? You win your championships on your bad days, but unfortunately for Stu, that was one of the more significant bad days that we've seen, and kind of eliminates the possibility to have an additional one. That he needs to have that, and he needs to be on top as much as possible moving the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely, especially when the guy leading the championship, Johnny Gerard, is on the podium every weekend. You can't be having those bad races, but we've seen Stu overcome that stuff before, and that was unlike him. You know, we really don't see something like that out of Stu, so it's very unlikely to see that happen more than once. I'm sure he learned his lesson.
So watching your XC1 field dip back into the woods, it looked like that was Craig DeLong chasing after one of the FMF KTM boys. And good to have Dante Oliveira back out. He was out west competing in his other series that he's committed to, and he's come back and joined us. He got a win at Camp Coker. We'll see if he's able to do it in the less sandy and not quite as dry conditions here today.
Yeah, last time we saw Dante race in GNCC, he got the win, battled down to the wire with Johnny Gerard, and that was more West Coast conditions for him. This track is going to be a little more difficult, you know, especially with the rain, the slick conditions, the clay. A lot more woodsy, a lot tighter, but yeah, he's one of the best riders in the world, so I'd like to see him run up front and battle with these guys for the whole race.
Now, we talk about slick, slippery conditions. Obviously, we've had more than our fair share of wet weather, but it's not quite the same type of slick out here today because it's not a sloppy mud. We've got a rather hard-packed base, it seems like, underneath, and then, like we said, just sprinkled a little bit of water on top of it. Talking to some of our youth riders, some of the amateur riders earlier today, it seems like it's very easy to lock those brakes up, tuck a front end, have the back end step out. What do you think is going to be the most crucial things for these riders to remember over the next 3 hours, Ben?
Yeah, just throttle control, but I think the track's going to continue to dry up, and like you said, it's easy to wash the front end on that hard-packed, polished dirt coming into the corners, and even coming out of them. You know, you might hit the berm that's soft and has really good traction, so you can be super aggressive on the throttle and with the clutch there, but then kind of ease off it as you get onto that polished stuff.
And just like you said, it looks like the XC1 field all pretty much running wheel to wheel to wheel at the moment. We've got a nice little break in the action before. I still believe we have a couple of XC1 riders that we haven't seen yet, but then we saw Grant Davis, Liam Draper, and Thad Duvall, kind of that breakaway group out of the XC2 crowd. We've seen certain conditions as right on cue. There is Liam Draper. Looks like he has made the pass around Grant Davis in the XC2 class. And there he is, Thad Duvall, hanging tough with him as well. Looks like there goes the 981. I was waiting. Did you guys, I didn't see Grant Baylor come through yet or not. I know they had worked through some of the XC1 field. We'll actually get a reading on the gaps and exactly what running order everybody's in here in just a minute or two. But taking a look, this corner right here, there's been all kinds of action pack going on throughout the day today. Another one of those off-camera corners are coming into a high rate of speed, and it's one of those corners where you can set up a pass, but sometimes you got to be a little more on the aggressive side.
Yeah, the problem with a corner like that is you saw those guys go from outside, inside on the hay bale, and then drift outside again, and it's super off-camera to the point where there's not a berm built up down around the outside, so to make a pass in that corner is going to be very tough, and that's usually the last corner before the finish, whereas we're going a different direction this year. But that's what I'm talking about, where it's going to be really hard to make a pass in these fields, whereas the main line, it's more like a road race line, MotoGP style line. So to get out of that main line is not faster, so it'd be very difficult to pass somebody.
So at the moment, looks like everybody kind of funneling in, still figuring out the pace, figuring out exactly what lines they want to take, catching a little bit of air, and as you can see, the crowd, they know exactly the best spots to come watch at. And there you see, got to give credit to Lyndon Snodgrass. He's having an exceptional last couple of rides. Really seems like he's been able to get comfortable on that Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki and keeps himself up towards the front of the XC1 field. Looks like we got time and a scoring updated. What are we seeing right now?
How about that? The XC2 leader, Liam Draper, finds himself at the top of the overall as we sit right now, with Grant Davis in second, Thad Duvall holding on to third, Cody Barnes in the fourth place position, and then seeing Jordan Ashburn holding on to fifth place overall, of course, first in the XC1 class, with Mike Wachowski, Brody Johnson, Angus Reardon, Lyndon Snodgrass, and Ryder Lafferty rounding out the top 10 overall.
So we knew the XC2 leaders were moving up into the XC1 class physically on track, but wow, jumping up to the top of the board. And Liam Draper going to try to hang on to that for as long as he can. We're watching one of those open field sections, really getting a great look courtesy of that Yamaha Racing live drone. And couldn't help but notice it looked like Ashburn right there was trying to stay a little off of the beaten path, if you will, getting into some of that grass, doing the same thing right there. What's the strategy behind that, Ben?
Yeah, that's smart. He's a smart rider. Staying in the grass is going to be a little more traction, whereas this part of the pits, too, they usually go down with the water truck, so it's going to be a little slick there in the middle, especially where the dirt is. The dirt is showing.
So watching it right now, kind of tiptoeing his way through. It does look like they took the dozer through and just pushed some of that stuff out of the way as they make their way through pit lane for the first time. And it looks like Snodgrass has moved up.
And Dante trying to make a pass on Ricky Russell.
Baylor able to get around Oliveira.
Yeah, and how about that? Dante taking the long way around, and he's trying to take the long way around Stu Baylor there as well. So getting a great shot of majority of your XC1 field all on camera at the same time. And look at this. Looks like Lyndon Snodgrass is trying to chase down the early lead.
Snodgrass pushing the issue as they head off for lap number 2, man. This will be an interesting one to watch. Snodgrass not been in the XC1 class that long either, so he's getting everything figured out, and we see him pushing for the lead.
Yeah, he had some injuries. He was able to get up and get recovered. I'm curious if that bike that we just saw come through was Wachowski, because it looked like we had lost him off of that front group. So there you see Jordan Ashburn and Lyndon Snodgrass. Just a little bit of breathing room, and it looks like that's Josh Strang up to the third place spot on that Sherco machine. So a solid run from the number 7.
Easy to spot that bright yellow.
Yeah, rocking that yellow FXR gear this weekend. Had it up on his Instagram, looking good and making sure the announcers know exactly who they're looking at. And there we see that's the spot yesterday where Walker Fowler made the pass for the lead. The bike's able to tuck it just a little bit tighter on the inside and protect those passing lines as we see Ashburn, Snodgrass, and Strang funnel back into the woods. And I believe that's Ryder Lafferty right on the back of Josh Strang as well.
Should be getting a better camera shot here in just a second. We'll be able to tell exactly where the riders are.
I think Ben put it best, it's like riding into a tunnel. We lose sight of them, they lose sight of the sky. Anything can happen in the woods. We saw that yesterday where the pass was made between Neal and Fowler. So we'll wait to see what kind of action happens between now and the next time we pick them up on screen. But nonetheless, great racing. Looks like everybody maintaining relatively close. And then, like we said, curious to see how long that XC2 class is going to be able to run at the front of the field. Let's go ahead and get predictions here. Ben, I'll start with you. Draper's got the spot right now. They're up in physically on track, so maybe able to pace off those XC1 guys a little bit more. Do you think he's going to be able to go late into the race with that overall lead? Whether or not he makes it to the finish is yet to be seen.
Yeah, I think nowadays it's not surprising to see the XC2 guys leading the overall. You know, they're all established riders, and the XC2 class is, I wouldn't call it a feeder class anymore. You know, it's just a bike displacement. There's no age limit or anything, and we have guys who are past winners down in that class now. So I think it's good. It just goes to show, you know, how strong and how deep the competition field really is.
Absolutely, and those top three slicing and dicing, going back and forth, as we got a great shot of them in another one of the open field sections, and it looked like Ashburn was trying to stretch it back out just a little bit over Linden Snodgrass. Seemed like this track is kind of a little bit of a give and take, a yo-yo, if you will. Some riders really seems like accelerating and excelling in these open sections, and then they dip into the woods. We lose sight of them, but we know it's a tighter, a little more hard pack, kind of got to be a little more specific on your line choices. Next thing you know, they're right back wheel to wheel.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it's good to bide your time behind somebody, and if you're constantly being aggressive and right on their rear wheel trying to make a pass, you might cause yourself to have a mistake or a crash, or just burn up all your energy. So sometimes you need to plan your attacks and plan your passes.
Plenty of racing left to go. No sense in expending all your energy right now, so we'll see. Looks like those leaders are comfortable running the pace, and here come your leaders on screen. So there it is, the Coastal Racing Gas of Jordan Ashburn leading the way, with should be Linden Snodgrass still close behind on that Babbitt's Online Kawasaki. There goes Josh Strang. Looks like that's Johnny Gerard, with Stu Baylor now moving up behind him. Then Dante Olivero, Ricky Russell,
Ryder Lafferty, Mike Wachowski, Craig DeLong, Evan Smith. Here they go.
Look at that. Eagle Eye Johnny Gallagher getting replaced up here with Ben Kelly, knowing exactly what he was looking at. And how about it? Stu Baylor looks like he's made several moves. Now he's right on the rear wheel of his main title competition, Johnny Gerard.
Yeah, that's the guy he needs to focus on beating more than anyone. Obviously, goal is to win the race, but if you can't do that, at least beat the guy that's leading the championship.
And look at that. There is your XC2 leader, Liam Draper, making his way around. Grant Davis still hanging right there with him. And going back to what we were talking about, the overall, as close as they are, that's definitely going to give them a better shot. Normally don't see the XC2 class up in the overall. The deeper we get into the race, this might be a different story here today.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch for sure. We saw Thad Duvall go through there as well. Couldn't quite tell if that was Cody Barnes on the Phoenix Racing Honda. I believe it was. There we see the 235 coming through.
Brody Johnson, then his brother John Johnson. There's Grant Baylor.
There's Grant Baylor. So Baylor back on the charge as well.
You know, something worth mentioning, Grant Davis, he is sitting 4th on the overall points for the 2024 season out of the XC2 class. An impressive ride for him this year.
Yeah, Dave's doing a great job right now and trying to make the most of it, as we only have one race after this before we go into the summer break. There it is, your leader, Jordan Ashburn, back on screen. Quietly, once again, having a very solidly consistent season, sitting in that 3rd place spot right now.
The Mud Fleas out there pointing lines to our top riders as they make their way through. Stu Baylor now closing up on the KTM rider of Johnny Gerard.
Did you see that move from Ricky Russell? Wow, coming out of nowhere, and looks like he picked up a couple positions at it.
Evan Smith on screen now.
So Smith chasing after Craig DeLong. And we wait for the XC2 guys to pop out. There is the Ampro Yamaha of Liam Draper, with Grant Davis right on his heels. And both of those guys, honestly, all three right there, they look rather comfortable. Kind of seems like what you were talking about, Ben, not pushing the pace any more than they have to be, but going to wait, give it a little bit of time, and then they'll get ready to do battle for the front of the field. And so watching the rest of the XC2 class making their way through, but up front it is all the Coastal Racing Gas, the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn, making some quick moves and getting to the top of the field. And here it is at the FMF PowerPoint. He was looking good, kicked up that front end, made the move around Mike Wachowski, and he is trying to set sail, but he's got Linden Snodgrass hot on his heels trying to say something about it. We pick him back up at mile 11 and been able to consistently keep a couple of bike lanes between himself and the rest of the XC1 field, headed down the woods line. We're going to see what happens. We'll get a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC.
Jordan Ashburn, and you're watching GNCC Live at racertv.com.
Unleash aggression, reliability, and premium quality with Kenda Tires. Delivering exceptional performance on all types of vehicles. Automotive, ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, bicycles, trailers, lawn and garden, and even golf. Trust Kenda Tires to guide you on your next adventure. Kenda, designed for your journey.
Born of family values and a homegrown work ethic, Cometic Gasket seals your machine so you can focus on the finish line. Cometic Gaskets are the competitive standard for racers who demand the very best inside their engine. Cometic Gaskets are always constructed from superior materials designed to perform in the most demanding environments. Whether it's a championship on the line or a day in the dirt with friends, professionals and enthusiasts alike depend on Cometic. Cometic Gasket, sealing championships since 1989.
On Track School is an online private school catering to some of the top athletes in the world. We offer a flexible schedule for students that are chasing their dreams and always on the go. We are an accredited K-12 school where students can graduate with a diploma. Scan the QR code or call us to book an appointment with one of our learning coaches to discuss your students' next steps.
Jordan Ashburn, and you're watching GNCC Live at RacerTV.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. Zach Herron alongside Jackson Burrell and Ben Kelly. Jackson, it's been a great day of racing. Ben, I know you've been cycling around, checking things out as well. I think we're in store for a couple more hours of great racing.
We sure are. Mother Nature has gave us a little bit of water here this morning, made a perfect track. Lyndon Snodgrass out there in the second place right now trying to challenge Jordan Ashburn. We've got a lot more racing to go.
Yeah, Lyndon certainly is on the charge, but the man he's chasing after, he's a past XC1 champion, Jordan Ashburn. He knows a thing or two about a thing or two, but you guys already know how good he is on a motorcycle. We were able to catch up and learn a little bit about the man underneath the helmet. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this.
The last person to make me nervous, probably my wife. Yeah, I don't know, getting through school. You know, finished school, high school, and went to TCAT, which is like a welding school after school, and I was glad to get that done and get that certification. And yeah, buying a house, I'd say that was a big accomplishment, and I'm really proud of that. And and getting married and starting a family and just kind of racing in general. So I don't still have my first motorcycle, but I'm close. So first motorcycle I ever rode was a JR50, and a couple years ago I found a really nice like JR80, so it's pretty kind of close, but that was my first bike, and then I would say I wasn't on that very long, and then of course everyone goes to a PW50, and that was probably the most memorable bike that I had, is racing local flat tracks on my PW50. One talent I wish I had would be probably being able to cook better, maybe, you know, just something simple, or fish. Like, I'm not a very good fisherman. I don't have much patience. If I could have one superpower, it would definitely be to fly. I think that would be the coolest thing, to just float around and be able to see everything from kind of a bird's eye perspective. Eagle, definitely the eagle, because you can fly. You're kind of the king of the bird world, and yeah, it's just what it represents, and how powerful the eagle is. So, short story of that was when this off-season training in Florida, I seen more eagles than I've ever seen in my life. I've probably seen like 5 different times I've seen an eagle. One of them was actually diving in a pond catching fish. Like, people wait their whole life to see that, and it was really cool to get to see that. And I was like, man, and we actually talked about it a few weeks ago. Like, man, if you could be anything, what would it be? I'm like, I would definitely be an eagle. You know, I like to have fun. Like to really have a good time. I guess at the races, everything's always really serious, but I can be a real big kid, and man, I love to go still do kid stuff and anything, and trampoline park, anything. Like, I'm always up for whatever, anything, and yeah, never really settled into like, oh, I'm getting old, or I'm getting this. Like, I'm always up for having a good time and going and having fun, and I'm always down. Yeah, just enjoy every day, and you never know what circumstances might change, so enjoy every day. And you know, for me, I live my life as Jesus would have, and I'm a Christian, and I try to show that to other people, and that's what I live by.
All right, I am officially starting the petition to call him Jordan the Eagle Ashburn from now on. No, it's always a cool interview and a great segment there from the Racer TV crew as we're seeing Ashburn and Snodgrass go by on screen. To get to learn a little bit more about the riders underneath the helmet, we get to see you guys out on race day, on race weekend, and there's a whole lot more to the story. Ben, I'm sure you can attest to that. Obviously, we only see you pretty much on Saturday, Sunday on the race weekend. You're in the zone, as we like to say. You're locked in, but you guys have personalities. You have fun. You've got a whole life outside of GNCC racing.
Yeah, most of us guys kind of have our guard up on the weekend, so you know, might not see how, like, you know, happy-go-lucky everyone is, but GNCC's a good. Looks like Ryder Lafferty stopping to talk to his mechanic here, one of the sport guys.
Yeah, something going on there for the teammate of Ashburn.
XC2 leaders coming by now.
And it still looks like that was Draper, Davis, and Duvall, all pretty much wheel to wheel to wheel. There goes Cody Barnes coming through on the Phoenix Racing Honda.
Gus Reardon up on his rear wheel now after the crash on the start.
So good recovery so far from Gus, and they're going to try to close that gap between the top 3 and themselves. Curious exactly what was going on with Lafferty. He had a great start going, and looked like they were looking at something on the handlebars maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hard to tell with the trees, but like you said, he was up there on the start and slowly dropped back from there, so it could have been an issue that's been hindering him from the start.
So there we see Ashburn opening it up ever so slightly on Lyndon Snodgrass, and he's got a little bit of a gap back to Josh Strang, having, I would consider, another good showing on that JS Sherco machine behind him. It does look like Stu Baylor has made the pass around Johnny Gerard. Then there is Dante Oliveira, Ricky Russell coming through on the Ampro Yamaha, and Mike Wachowski just behind him. Then I believe that was Craig DeLong coming up next on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna.
Evan Smith most likely still behind him.
And so how about that? We talked about the one guy that Stu Baylor wanted to be focused on beating was Johnny Gerard. He was able to make the pass right now, and not comfortable by any means. He's not going to be comfortable until he's in that number 1 spot and sees the checkered flag. But got to be a little sigh of relief saying, all right, at least I'm in front of this guy now.
Yeah, definitely. He's basically just got to keep plugging away and keep making passes and try his best to work up to the front.
There we see Barnes and Reardon. We just missed the top 3 before that, so that's 4th and 5th in your XC2 class. And does still look like they're consistently kind of hanging tight with the XC1
Looks like
crew.
we got a pass for the lead here. At some point we missed.
Wow.
You can see Linden out front and that bright orange helmet of Jordan Ashburn dropping back to second.
Just like we saw yesterday there, Zach, when they go in the woods, they come back out with swap positions. How about that? Linden Snodgrass leading the way.
And you can definitely tell, I think it looks like something happened to Ashburn, because that gap back to Josh Strang was about what we saw between Snodgrass and Strang in the last camera shot. So maybe a tip over, a small bobble for your early race leader, but now it is the Babbitts Online Monster Energy Kawasaki of Linden Snodgrass leading the way. That could be a good opportunity for Strang too. He's another guy, you know, if he smells blood in the water, he's going to try to make something happen.
Strang's one of those guys too that usually if he's up front in the beginning of the race, he's most likely going to be up front at the end. He's not one of those guys that gets tired or anything. So barring any bike mechanicals with his Sherco ride, it'll be good to see if he can have a strong ride. He's always one of those guys that even if he's not having the best year, he ends up winning a race at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe he won the final round last year at Ironman, and still looking for that first win of the year here in 2024. And today could be the day here at the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. We check back in at the FMF PowerPoint mile number 10. And that gives you a little better of an idea. Some of these riders having to dab foots, paddle their way up this hillside. And Jackson, compared to yesterday, it looks like it's a little more chewed up. Obviously, it got a little more moisture in the soil today. And be excited to see if you can get down there and give us an update firsthand. And look at that. People throwing additional rocks, additional obstacles on course. They said they didn't think it was tough enough.
Exactly. We'll try to make it down there by the time our leaders make it through there for the next lap and try to give you an idea of exactly what's going on down there. But yeah, as you can see at the bottom of the hill, we're already seeing a big rut starting to develop. Things are definitely looking different than they did yesterday.
Without a doubt, we'll wait and see when your leaders come through exactly what the gap is. It was Snodgrass taking over the lead from Jordan Ashburn, who was, it looks like whatever did happen with Ashburn, he was able to recover quickly, still maintain that second place spot. And there was not a lot of time between Snodgrass and Strang to begin with, so must have been a relatively small bobble. He's back up, and at least on that last drone shot, it looked like he was still charging forward. Looks like both man and machine okay.
So this is going to be an interesting one. Like we were saying, Josh Strang, a true veteran. And like Zach mentioned, if he smells blood in the water, he'll strike. And here is Linden Snodgrass on the 178 making his way, but just behind him, the big number 3.
Man, and look at this. They have opened it back up on the number 7 of Strang, and it looked like Jordan Ashburn was not happy that he gave over that number 1 spot. And they're probably looking out for this guy as well. Stu Baylor looks like he is on the charge as he starts to break away from the 2 KTM teammates.
It is amazing how these riders, how close they can get to these trees, only inches away. Nobody flinching. Seemed like Stu Baylor ready to hit it. Here we see our leaders back on screen once again. Ashburn trying to find his way back up in the number 1 spot.
So this is going to be fun to watch. Snodgrass has got the spot right now. Looks like Jordan Ashburn doing a good job of not following behind, especially in these open sections. The last thing you want to do is get pelted with roost. And just looking to the left or the right, able to find some good real estate, some good traction, and catch back up to the Kawasaki. So Jordan Ashburn says, hey, I was feeling mighty comfortable up front. I would like that spot back. Snodgrass going to try to make it tough on him.
Yeah, whatever was going on with Ashburn, if anything, it seems like he has been able to shake it now as he is back on the charge.
Well, and we saw some of that yesterday too, Jackson. We had simple mistakes from our top riders. Walker Fowler says almost every lap he was off the machine at one point or another. We saw Bryson Neal nearly slam right into a tree. And so these guys, whether they're at the top level of the sport or not, still getting some kickers thrown at them here on the Mason-Dixon course, as it looks like Snodgrass was able to open it up by just a couple of bike lengths since that last camera shot.
And a good shot here from our Yamaha Racing live drone as they head back into the woods, into the tunnel, we should say.
And another thing that we were talking about a lot yesterday was lap riders. We saw one not too far in front of your 2 leaders. Obviously, the bike's not quite as wide. It's going to be a little bit easier to find ways around, but we have a lot of bikes out on track at the same time. Can't help but think that lappers are going to come into this as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And it looks like Baylor's able to close it up a little bit on Strang as we now take a look at the series championship point standing. Johnny Gerard leading the way with 177 points. So that means 29 points behind him is going to be Stu Baylor. And then Jordan Ashburn holding on to the 3rd place position with Grant Baylor, like we said, out of the XC2 class in 4th. And then your defending champion, Craig DeLong, holding 5th on the series championship points.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Grant Davis out of that XC2 class jumping all the way up to 4th on the over spot. Well, this is a whole different way to look at the graph or look at the points. Going to give you a little idea. This is the way things have changed throughout the different rounds, and you can pick your favorite rider, follow their line throughout the season. And we had to cut that out because we got a battle on our hands. We want to show you what's going on for the pass for the lead. It looks like Jordan Ashburn's trying to make something happen. He looks like almost pulled up alongside the Babbitt's Kawasaki. Still not quite able to do it. A solid ride from Lyndon Snodgrass. Another rider who's probably like, man, this clean air in front of me feels good. I want to see what I can do with it.
Yeah, and he's doing just that now as he leads Ashburn around. Keeping Ashburn at bay, impressive, like you were saying, from Snodgrass, to be able to keep him behind him. Here we see him making their way through one of the field sections and back off into the woods they go. Snodgrass still leading the way.
So kind of like that yo-yo effect I was talking about. It seems like right as soon as you catch up to one rider, they're able to stretch it back out, and it just repeats back and forth. Got to be kind of frustrating. Ben, you can probably talk to that better than any of us. How hard is it when you know you're able to make up time in some spots, and then something happens, they stretch it back out, and it's just this never-ending battle to make up real estate?
Yeah, that's just racing. That's why you really got to time your passes, save your energy, and when you do make a pass, try to make it stick.
All right, so it looks like we're going to lose sight of our leader for just a second. So now we're going to pull up that racing graph, show you exactly how things have changed throughout the season. So as we saw early in the day or early in the season, Johnny Gerard rocketing to the top, grabbing some early race wins, and then Stu Baylor skyrocketing. He got really close, and then as you can see at round 7, that's where the line kind of flattens off. That points gap opens back up, and he's got his work cut out for him. You can see Jordan Ashburn, he's kind of gotten super consistent there towards the mid part of the season. And then impressive to watch that white line as well. Craig DeLong, he had those bad races early in the year. He was able to recover. I couldn't quite tell. That almost looked like a pass to me. There is Strang still running strong in the 3rd place spot.
And here comes Stu Baylor now in the 4th place position. Looks like there's still going to be quite a few bike links between those two as Johnny Gerard makes his way through.
Johnny Gerard, then Dante Oliveira. Ricky Russell's closed up. There goes Mike Wachowski, and it looks like Craig DeLong in that group. Evan Smith not too far behind as well, still able to keep them in sight. And it does still look like it is Lyndon Snodgrass out front, leading the way for your XC1 class, with Jordan Ashburn not too far behind.
Gonna get a gap on this one now.
And there was a perfect example of how hard it is to get those bikes turned. Like we said, super off camber in that corner just after the scoring area. Snodgrass grabbed a little too much throttle on the back end, stepped out on him. Should have timing and scoring updated.
Yeah, it looks like just about 3 seconds Jordan is behind Lyndon, and as you can tell, he can still see him in the field section, so virtually nothing.
And let us know when we get our XC2 riders through. I'd love to see where they're at on the overall charts as well. Looks like all 3, Draper, Davis, and Duvall, still running strong last time we saw them on screen.
All right, guys, how y'all wait for the XC2. I'm going to head down to the FMF PowerPoint and see if we can get a word from down there.
All right, so Jackson going to try to give us a trackside report, see how things are looking on the ground. And we saw some of those quads yesterday absolutely skying that single out. Looks like some of the bike guys kind of scrubbing it off, not trying to get any more airtime than they have to.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe later in the race, these guys will start sending that for the fans.
Launching it out. The fans go crazy. Everybody's got their favorite spots picked out. along the course, including that FMF PowerPoint. What are you seeing on screen, Ben?
Yeah, it looks like the XC2 guys, after the completion of lap 2, are still leading the overall with Liam Draper first, Grant Davis second, and Thad Duvall third, even Gus Reardon there in fourth.
Wow, so how about that? The 4 of your top 5 now taken over by the XC2 field. As, look at this, Lyndon Snodgrass has stretched it back out and responded to the pressure from Jordan Ashburn. So very impressive for...
Yeah. It looked like Gus Reardon actually had the fastest lap time so far, second lap. So he's catching back up to those XC2 guys, but still very close between for lap times between the leaders in XC2 and XC1.
And that's not something that's too surprising to see, especially with it sound like Reardon having some issues off the start. Last thing you want to do is kick the hornet's nest and get that guy any more fired up than he already is. Got to think, as long as the bike's feeling good, the body's okay, he's going to be charging towards the front.
Yeah, he's trying to bridge the gap so that he could see those guys be in the battle and not lose the toe.
So watching Snodgrass come through, looks like he got some hydration. And be curious to see.
And Josh Strang is closing up on Jordan Ashburn.
Yeah, it looks like Strang getting a little bit of a second wind.
Yeah, he's looking really good, really racy. Stu Baylor looking the same.
And Stu looks like put a little bit of time between himself and Gerard.
Yep.
With Oliveira hanging tough.
Craig DeLong looks like he's getting antsy, trying to make a pass on Mike. Evan Smith closing back in on that pack.
So pretty much the same running order and relatively close in distance and gaps between them. They're out of the XC1 field. This early in the race, Ben, do you think they're being told anything about the XC2 having the overall yet, or is that kind of later in the race where that stuff really starts to get relayed to the rider?
Yeah, you know, some of these XC1 guys probably want to know, and others don't care. Because like we've seen in the past, it's one thing to catch the pack and to be leading in the beginning, but at the end of 3 hours, you know, it's a lot less likely. But we've seen it earlier this year as an XC2 rider got the first overall. So it's definitely something that should be in the back of their head. Just these guys, they can't just ride around early in the race anymore. They need to be giving it their best for the whole 3 hours.
Well, we've also seen what happens when riders find out about the XC2 riders and they weren't told during the race. It wasn't too much earlier in the year where Stu Baylor wasn't quite aware of what was going on with one of those XC2 riders, and we could see him on video at least kind of throwing his hands up to his team like, why didn't you guys tell me? And so it's very interesting. We talked about this some yesterday as well. Some riders wanting to know as much information with things that are going on as possible. Others barely even look at the pit board and say, hey, just let me do what I got to do.
Yeah, we saw that at Florida where Grant Davis was able to get second overall and get in between Johnny Gerard and Stu Baylor. And, you know, that's tough. A guy like Stu was probably trying to, you know, save some energy. Florida's one of the toughest races out there, but at the same time, you know, he wasn't out front. So sometimes, you know, you just got to hold yourself accountable and be giving it your best the whole time. But every situation is unique, so it's easy to call it, but when you're out there, you're giving it the effort. Yeah, emotions run high.
Hey, absolutely, yeah, and it seems like they've run extremely high here this weekend as everybody wanting to get their best result possible here at Mason-Dixon, as is Lyndon Snodgrass as he continues to keep that gap relatively open between himself and Jordan Ashburn. I've been crutching my way around. Turns out I'm a lot better talking about dirt bikes than riding them. Ben, you've been riding the bicycle around all day. Let's hear from somebody that has actually put the helmet on and done some racing today. We welcome back into the booth Eagle Eye himself, Johnny Gallagher. Johnny, first of all, how was the race?
Oh, man, you know, just listening to you guys talk about the XC2 guys kind of up, obviously leading the top, or 4 of the top 5 spots in the overall. One thing that I'll point out, we've talked about it before, conditions today. You know, it looks beautiful from the drone. When you're down there, this stuff is slicker than grease on glass and a lot of the track. And it almost offers, like, obviously somebody like Ben Kelly is going to be going a lot faster than somebody like me, but it almost offers a speed limit because you can't really just bury the throttle and kind of hang on and send it. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of, especially for someone at my mediocre skill level, you really kind of got to just be easy on the throttle, and I think that might be lending itself an advantage to those XC2 guys, especially Liam Draper. I've been listening to the show, packing some stuff up, and you guys are killing it, doing an awesome job. One thing I didn't hear if you guys mentioned, I mean, Liam Draper is as local can be to this race. You know, it's local for Craig DeLong, but Liam lives like across across the hill from here. So this dirt is something he's super familiar with. You know he rides after the rain. They had very similar conditions to this for day 2 of the Sprint Enduro last weekend, and Liam was on rails actually taking some test wins away from Johnny Girard, who's been virtually unstoppable in that U.S. Sprint Enduro series the last couple years. So for Liam, to be comfortable in the position that he's in, comfortable with the dirt, I think it's not surprising that he is leading a XC2 charge that has them up high in the overall right now. And the other thing that isn't surprising is Josh Strang. Early in the season, we had talked about that Sherco. It was a big change. He just kind of hasn't obviously been really up there in the fight. But this is a track, I think, where that machine maybe kind of will even out a little bit more. I don't really know how to say it other than it seems like he's been maybe a little bit underpowered. That's just my observation, nothing that I've heard. Where today you just, again, whether it's a 450, 250, even 125, you can't just wrap into the throttle. You got to kind of roll into it. And Josh is a rider. He's a very good throttle control rider. He's good at finding grip where others can't. So, yeah, a couple of those things don't surprise me. But, hey, on cue, here comes Liam Draper, that big number 1 plate, but he's still got the pressure from behind from Grant Davis and also Thad Duvall and Angus Reardon and Cody Barnes and those guys are absolutely ripping right now.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Sorry, Ben. We were mentioning how we've seen the wet conditions. We talked about that being slick and slippery, but this is different. It was hard packed. We had a great day of quad racing yesterday, but then we tossed some of the water on top of it. And one of those tracks where you got to go a little slower to go fast.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's in pockets and it's in sections of the race course. I mean, I would say the whole course overall is definitely slick, but there's sections that, kind of look slick and actually have a little bit of grip to them, and then there's sections that, to a novice eye look like there would be some grip, and the minute you even touch the throttle, the back end's just kicking out on you and skating. I've always, on a quad, you kind of always use that logic that if it's shiny, it's slick. Not really the case here, and Ben, you might be able to speak more to this. Like, there was, on some of that slick stuff, there was actually, shiny stuff, there was a little bit of grip. Look at that cool little inside line there from Stu Baylor, trying to find every little second that he can to work himself up to that lead trio. Dante Oliveira hanging in tough. Ricky Russell right there. Mike Wachowski, a rider that's been on terror lately. And then obviously Craig DeLong back there as well. I didn't see who
it
was
looked
that?
like Evan Smith made his way around Craig.
There you go. So it is the 347 of Evan Smith. I didn't catch the number, so good eye. I'm gonna have to give up the eagle eye. But Ben, how does that, am I on something at all there, or is it sometimes where it looks like it's slick, it's not, and vice versa at this place or this type of dirt?
Yeah, you're definitely onto something. It's so tricky to, like we talk about throttle control, clutch control, how aggressive you can be. Really just being able to change on the different parts of the track, where you can be aggressive and where you have to be more smooth to be fast and keep your wheels on the ground. It's one of those things you just learn from experience, and really it's a coin flip. Sometimes you'll be all good, you'll be on the edge of crashing, but sometimes that's fast. It's just one of those things with woods racing, with off-road. There's just so many variables.
Yeah. One of the quick things that I have to point out is how different it is when it gets slick on 2 wheels versus 4. When you just drift around on 4 wheels, you're looking for traction to go forward, but man, on the dirt bike, if you don't find it, you're laying on your head.
Yeah, you find out in a hurry whether it's there or not. And it's going to be exciting racing as if it hasn't already. I'm going to show you exactly what's been going on. So Lyndon Snodgrass did take back over the lead, and he was feeling mighty comfortable. We thought that was going to be the pass, but it actually ended up working out in Snodgrass's favor, because the next time we saw him, he had opened up several bike leads and has been able to maintain that gap over Jordan Ashburn. Of course, Josh Strang still holding strong there in the 3rd place spot on that JS Sherco, with Stu Baylor trying to hunt him down in the 4th place spot. We're going to grab a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to the Mason-Dixon GNCC.
podiums here. I don't think any atmosphere can match it. Nothing quite like pro motocross.
We've been there since the very beginning.
20 laps, the main event, the mud, the blood, the beer.
Organizing the industry and building champions. "100 years of defending your rights to ride into the future."
Community, family, teamwork. It's what we have stood on for over a decade. Hauling might be what we do at the surface, but it's much deeper than that. Because what you need matters. When you need a haul, give us a call at 724-852-4488. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, we at JD Enterprises are prepared to serve you.
It takes commitment, passion, and endurance to make something great. Made by champions, for champions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Racer TV. We've got live coverage of the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. It's been a great weekend of racing. We have all different kinds of competitions and events going on. Zach Herron here back inside the studio with Johnny Gallagher and Ben Kelly. Guys, we talk about it all the time. GNCC is a family. We've got stuff from mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and your four-legged furry friends. We had the dog show last night, and, of course, the Stasic Showdown as well. I'm sure you guys were on the fence watching every bit of it.
I did catch some of the dog show. I missed the Stasic because they were kind of going on at the same time.
Yeah, they were battling for our attention. We'll give you an idea of exactly how things went down, showing you the Stasic race recap. So there it is, Ricky Towery, the hardest working man in GNCC.
Look at that serious face. I mean, he takes this absolutely as serious as every other race, and let me tell you what, so do the competitors.
Absolutely. Was that the XC1 class or was that the Stasic race? You can't tell because he treats them the exact same. And these kids, they know it. They go over, they get their bibs, they're decorating, and look at that. That is all seriousness. They might take a stuffed animal to bed, but they mean business when they line up on the gate. And the fans go wild, the parents go crazy. It's just an all-out good time for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kids are just having a blast. I mean, you can see the kids that are in the other age division. Now, that is an interesting-looking Stasic. I've never seen that model before. I think we'll call that the Stasic Choppa.
The DIY Stasic.
There you go, the DIY. But you can see the handguards. You can see these kids are absolutely just loving the time on the track out there. They look forward to it all weekend. They look forward to it all day. And Ricky Towery, the announcers, everybody just gives them a heck of an experience. And, man, these are future GNCC racers here. We've already seen some of the Stasic generation kids now up onto micro machines and even 65s, and they're starting to work their way into the youth. Look at that. Barely crosses the finish line, and, hey, give me that medal. I won that thing. I know it. Give me my just rewards.
I lapped halfway through the field, and then here is the 9th annual Mowgli Memorial Dog Show. We had an obstacle course set up. Some riders, I believe that was within 25 feet of the marked course, so not sure if there was any penalty there. Extra points if your handler goes through the obstacles as well, so lots of different strategies being taken. Lots of treats being used to bribe dogs to go in and over. Some dogs rocking off leash. They said, I don't need to be following around. Said, wait a second, who peed on that hay bale? I was told that was extra points, so it was not frowned upon. He said, wait, somebody went there too. And I think my favorite part, don't get me wrong, the dogs were great, but watching the handlers trying to get their dogs to do whatever they had to do was pretty comical, but a good time for all involved.
That was the only time. Yeah, and that's actually Trevor Russell there, one of GNCC's own, and his wife Leah there. They're getting. Oh, was that Tim's? No, that's not Tim's little guy there.
Crew was in the competition.
Cole. Yes. Man, yeah, it's you can see the coaxing was next level, trying to get the pups up and over. To be fair, that is a big jump for that little guy right there.
He said, I'm not doing it.
He should have tried the ice cream. The ice cream would have got it done.
And we did allow all breeds involved. This is a purebred Tyrannosaurus Rex. They are still out. There was a lot of money spent on that dog. And wait for it, tiptoeing up and over. And that's what it's about. That's a great time. Everybody having a great time out there at the 9th Annual Mowgli Memorial. We did just see Jordan Ashburn go by, and it looks like he had retaken that lead.
Yeah, it looks like he did. And actually, when our producer, Adam Gordon, or OPAG, came on, Stu Baylor on the charge, looking like he's starting to make up some ground. When he came on there and said that was Jordan Ashburn, I thought he was talking about the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I did too.
And I was like, man, that's awesome. Jordan got out there in costume, but I guess he was saying our leader. Back to the racing action here at the Monster Mile. Jordan Ashburn taking over the lead. Here comes the rest. Now it is Johnny Gerard, Ricky Russell.
Dante there.
Oh, that was Dante, yeah.
Up.
There we go. And now look at that. Evan Smith still right there, and Craig DeLong trying to work his way back around. A couple of Huskies there doing battle, but trading paint, not making it easy. Look at this. Oh, my, that is a big chunk of time made up.
Wow.
And Grant Davis has now, Thad Duvall into the number 2 spot.
So what happened?
Liam Draper.
Yeah, we had the Ampro Yamaha up front early. Those guys were all wheel-to-wheel. There we see Reardon and Barnes going by. So sounds like something.
Hopefully nothing major.
Yeah, hopefully we still have the number 1 out making his way around. Johnny, I know it was before you came into the booth, jumping back to Jordan Ashburn. You may be Eagle Eye, but he is officially Jordan Eagle Ashburn because that is his spirit animal.
Okay, all right. Well, there is Liam Draper. So good news for the Ampro team and Liam Draper fans. No bike problems, or at least not anything that stopped him in his tracks. Not injured, maybe just getting stuck, maybe had a little get off there. Could have been anything that set him back, but he is now quite a bit behind those top 4 in that XC2 class. He's got to seriously put some hammer down, and he's got a big chunk of time to make up if he wants to get back in that battle for the win and also the overall.
Yeah, something like that is very frustrating to happen to you. He did everything right. He was out front, leading the overall even, not just XC2, and had an issue and dropped way back, but he's moving forward. He looks to be riding good and fast, so he's one of those guys. Let's see if he can just stay into it and catch back up to that group, but it's going to be tiring.
There is the Grizzly Grant Baylor on the podium at our last round, and safe to say, if he wants to find himself on the podium at the end of this one today, he's going to really need to pick up the pace. Not only is he on time correction behind 5 of the XC2 riders, he's actually physically behind them as well. Man, he's definitely got some ground to make up, but we know the Grizzly gets better as this race goes on. Only an hour and 13 minutes in, he's just kind of starting to wake up from hibernation at this point. He's fueled up and ready to go, and he'll likely put in some quick lap times here. To me, the biggest change in that camera shot, and it could have been a perspective thing, sometimes we get talking, seemed like Grant Davis was a lot closer than he had been in previous shots. We'll see when they check in. We're only at the 6-mile marker. Got about another 6 miles to go until we see him check in with the transponder scoring. Wouldn't be shocked to see, obviously thinking he probably likely will be in the overall lead, but wouldn't be shocked to see that he put a lap time in quite a bit faster than those XC1 guys and maybe starting to actually open up a gap on those guys on time correction.
Yeah, maybe he saw the issue, the crash, whatever it was with Liam, and maybe he thought, okay, this is my opportunity, I'm going to sprint, and I'm sure he got a pit board knowing that he's close to the XC1 guys, and you can almost see him. You can probably see him in the fields, and he's been riding off just like crazy confidence all year, it seems like, so he's been training hard, riding good, obviously very comfortable on the bike, and he's been on the overall podium before, so that's where he wants to be every race.
Yeah, that's, he looked like, you pointed out when he came through, just looked like he was very aggressive. Kind of surprising to see that because word on the street, or right from his mouth, when I saw him on Thursday night when I pulled in here, you could hear him. He had the sniffles, sounded like he was a little under the weather, maybe even had a crash in the last couple weeks and was kind of nursing himself along. But one thing he said with a very straight look on his face, he said, hey man, it's 3 hours. I got a championship points lead to protect. I'm going to go out there. I'm not only going to try and protect it, I'm going to try and extend it. And there is Johnny Gerard. It looks like Stu Baylor really starting to close up the gap there to the riders in front of him now. That is not one of our top XC1 riders, but we see those are the everymen of GNCC Racing out there doing battle with themselves while also navigating the track while these XC1, XC2 riders are as well. Makes it very interesting, and how cool is it to get out there and get to race on the same track that our top pros are?
Yeah, if you're lucky, these top pros might even rub a little paint on you on your plastics.
Is that lucky? Is that lucky or?
Oh, absolutely.
Hey,
that's a badge of honor.
Yeah, some of these guys, they probably love that. You go by, you're yelling at them.
Stu Baylor broke this arm.
Well, maybe not that, but
no, maybe not.
Broke this fender.
Yeah, absolutely. Just left a skid mark there on the side panel. Now let me ask, as far as Liam Draper goes, obviously we see how close the racing still is, not only in the XC1 but the XC2 class, all kind of in a big freight train of riders. Is that pace going to be harder to match now that he's kind of fallen off of the tail end of that train, or is it a little easier to try to catch back up to them as compared to when everybody's spread out?
Man, it's hard to know because we don't know exactly what it is that happened to Liam. If it was just something silly and he's able to get right back up to speed, but the biggest thing is overcoming that frustration because he was doing everything right. He had himself in a great position, and now it's that mental reset you have to make. And I mean, Ben, you can speak to that as much as anybody. It's like sometimes you can use that as motivation, and sometimes when you put it in the hate tank, it ends up just leading to more mistakes.
Yeah. I hope he proves me wrong, but I think it's going to be a little more difficult for him. As we can see on screen, the pace is starting to pick up with Grant Davis, but also with the XC1 guys, as Stu and Johnny G are closing in on the leaders here. So everyone's kind of settled into the lines. The track's probably shaping up the best it's been all day as it's drying up. And, yeah, as we see Josh Strang even picking it up.
Yeah, it looks like Strang's starting to look a little racy. He's starting to put some pressure on Lyndon Snodgrass as he is seeing out front the number 3 Coastal Racing Gas of Jordan Ashburn. Starting to get a little smaller in the view there. He's starting to get a little further away, looking like he's not so content just to sit back there anymore. Thinks he wants to get around and start to chase down Ashburn.
Yeah, this is definitely dangerous for the rest of the guys. Like I said, when Strang's up front at the beginning, we're over an hour in now, he's usually up front at the end.
Obviously grabbing a win at our last round last year, but to me, I think the big turning point for Josh Strang last year was the Mountaineer GNCC, where he was just kind of back there lurking in that like 5, 6, 7 spot, and then all of a sudden as we got to the last lap, we're talking about like, hey, Josh Strang could possibly be up in the top 5, and then one camera shot later we're like, Josh Strang is in 3rd, and he's closing and potentially getting close to I believe it was Craig DeLong who was leading. Next thing you know, he almost wins the race literally in the final miles. It was like, where did all that speed come from? He had a little chip on his shoulder, a little attitude afterwards. He said, hey, these guys keep calling me old, telling me that I'm not competitive anymore, and something just got to me there at the end of the race, and I said, I'll show you old. So 1 year older, but doesn't look like he's lost any speed, that's for sure.
Well, he can thank the competitors for talking a little crap and lighting a fire under him.
So good stuff from the number 7. Hanging tough, and looked like he was getting caught up by Stu Baylor, and then, like we said, flipped the switch, and now he's trying to chase after your leader, and it looks like we got Jackson Burrell hanging out at the FMF PowerPoint. Jackson, you were out there yesterday. How are things looking compared to today?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Looking a lot different here today. I'm very surprised at how different it is. A ton of rocks coming up the hill that are being exposed and roots, and here comes the number 3, your leader, Jordan Ashburn. And now making his way up the hill, Lyndon Snodgrass and Josh Strang. Man, it's amazing how fast these pros can go versus everybody else making their way up the hill. Johnny Gerard wheeling the bike up the hill. That's what it seems like you need to do out here with as many rocks and roots and holes we have out here. As soon as you come out, there is a very bad rut with a lot of rocks and roots, as we see Dante Oliveira making his way through it right now. All right, there's your XCT leader making his way through, Grant Davis. Thad Duvall now making his way up. All right, guys, it is hectic down on the hill. We'll throw it back up to you.
All right, thanks, Jackson. And, man, I think the biggest thing that we just saw in that camera shot, the XC2 class is up there.
Yeah, Grant Davis has definitely made up time, but keep in mind there has been a little bit of a gap in the middle of that XC1 class that opened up, where before they were kind of like wheel to wheel. After Stu Baylor, there is a little gap back now to Dante Oliveira, well, and Johnny Gerard's in there as well, but Dante Oliveira, there's like a 10-second gap that wasn't there before, but just quickly looking at the screen, it looks like to me it's about 20 to 22 seconds between Stu Baylor, who's sitting there, I believe, in that number 4 spot right now, but within sight of the lead in the more open sections, and physically Grant Davis. So obviously that's going to translate to, I don't know exactly what the time differential was, it's usually around a minute, but I think we were told it was 49 seconds. I don't know if that was the start differential time or what. Okay, so we're going to get that. Our producer Adam Gordon is going to get the update for us on that, but just doing some quick math, I think Grant is going to have upwards of a 30-second or around a 30-second lead, where last lap it was actually Liam Draper leading the way, and if you look at the elapsed time, he had about a 10-second gap over Lyndon Snodgrass, who was physically our overall leader, but when time correction, Liam Draper had about a 10-second gap. Now it's Grant Davis. I think we're going to see that grow to upwards of 20, possibly close to 30 seconds for the gap.
So things looking good right now for Grant Davis, and look like John. Oh. So now getting the word from our producer Adam Gordon, 38 seconds on that last shot. So definitely looks like he is stretching things out. And look at that. Yeah, Josh Strang has made the pass on that JS Sherco around Lyndon Snodgrass. And looking comfortable, looking like he's getting ready to charge after the number 3.
Yeah, and it looked like Stu Baylor is going to be coming into the shot right there with Johnny Gerard on toe.
Yep, so there you have it on screen. 2, 3, 4, 5 as they run, and they are charging, really pushing the pace. Lyndon Snodgrass giving up that number 2 spot, but still fighting hard, sitting solidly, and looking good there in the number 3 spot. You guys pointed out earlier, I mean, Lyndon has really been riding well lately, looking comfortable on that machine, and really kind of coming into his own in this XC1 class.
Really looked like Johnny Gerard was starting to respond. It kind of looked like Stu had pulled away from him just a little bit, and then the next thing you know, him and Stu and Johnny had kind of pulled away from his teammate Dante Oliveira in that last shot. So maybe Johnny Gerard says, hey, it's time to go. These guys are getting a little too close. Not to mention, might be getting some pit boards and being told a little bit about the XC2 situation as well.
Yeah, it looks, you can see how close Lyndon Snodgrass and Josh Strang are riding right now. Keep in mind, these guys are buddies. Probably stemming largely from the fact that they spent some time on the Australian ISDE team together over the years, and now they train together quite a bit down there at the Aus Ranch in North Carolina. So, you know, they might be combatants on race day, but they spend a lot of time together, so they probably feel a little more comfortable. We can liken that back to the days of when Ben had his cohort, Josh Toth, and it seemed like they would just get glued to each other. But, you know, they were living together. They were just super comfortable running each other tight, and we see that right now with those guys just riding very close together. Maybe even a little boost of confidence for Lyndon. You know, Josh getting around him and thinking, hey, if he's got better pace, I know I can ride with him. I do it during the week, so let's do it on race day.
Watching your leader slice and dice his way through some lap traffic. And there's some of that shiny soil you were talking about, Johnny.
I think that one is actually a slick spot.
Yeah, that one I was about to say, I'm not seeing a lot of traction on that.
Stu Baylor really starting to look racy, and Johnny Gerard gave up just a couple bike lengths, but still looking like he's charging. We'll see what the gap is back. There is Dante Oliveira still looking strong. That's not, I don't think that's 10 seconds. He's still pretty close within striking distance. And again, very different conditions than where he won. Oh my, Grant Davis now, yeah, he is right there.
Yeah, he's right there with the XC1 pack, and that's good because that's just going to motivate him more. And as we saw, Thad Duvall coming through now in second. Dante was really close to that lead pack as well. If he can bridge that gap, it will help him out so that he's not reading the trail. He can kind of mirror the guys ahead of him.
Thad Duvall, another rider who's had phenomenal success in conditions like this. Excellent throttle control, just finds grip sometimes where others can't, and you know, up there in the number 2 spot in that XC2 class, and likely in the number 2 spot overall. We won't know till they check in, but it sure looks like it to me. So a solid run for the 989 machine on that Red Bear Rocky Mountain ATV MC machine from that XC2 class, just charging and charging.
So watching Strang head back down that hill, almost like he had to check up just a little bit.
You see these guys all kind of taking a look over, or Mikey Waynes would call it a check up from the neck up. Everybody kind of wants to know who's behind me, who's in front of me, where are we at. You know, just that's their opportunity. Yeah, they're getting pit boards, but sometimes physically seeing it, it just reaffirms what you're reading on those pit boards. Like, yep, these are the guys that are behind me, these are the gaps, and let's get back to work.
So watching Snodgrass taking the wide line, looking for traction, trying to reel back in the number 7 and keep Stu Baylor off of his back end. What are we seeing on time and scoring?
Yeah, Grant Davis is out front, and still Thad Duvall there in second. Looked like Grant Davis had the fastest lap time, 10 seconds faster than Thad Duvall with the second fastest lap time for that third lap.
And the gap as they run on corrected time, 29 seconds Grant Davis is leading by on the overall. So when I believe when our producer Adam Gordon said 38 seconds, I think he was saying he was 38 seconds behind. So he's 29 seconds to the good. And man, that's exactly what we're seeing on screen with the update there. 29 seconds, that's a pretty substantial gap. But again, we're starting to see the pace really ratchet up at the front. Jordan Ashburn pushing, trying to get away. Josh Strang, Lyndon Snodgrass, Stu Baylor, Johnny Gerard, Dante Oliveira, and the rest all trying to run him down. So I think we're going to see things start to stretch out. But with Grant Davis physically in the battle with some of these guys a little further back in XC1, he's got that advantage. When the pace goes up, he's going to know it.
Yeah, as long as now he caught the toe from these guys, if he can just minimize the mistakes and stay with them, it's going to be looking really good for Grant to be on the overall podium and maybe even take the overall.
Yeah, that would be something. We've got all these years. Finally, Josh Toth getting it done at our round 3 this year. Man, if it happens again in 2024, we're going to start having to ask, like, hey, what's in the water that these XC2 guys are drinking? Because they are just on it.
Well, we talked about the bike size as well, and you talked about how slippery this track is. You know, these bigger bikes, these 450s, these 350s, they're a lot more torquey. So the wheel is more likely to spin, as we got Jordan Ashburn coming through for the pit. Whereas those 250s, even though they're revved out high in the RPMs, they're not quite as torquey, so maybe they're using that to their advantage.
Yeah, and that's actually something I kind of wanted to ask you about, Ben. I mean, obviously you spent a lot of time on that 250F, then moving to, you rode the 450 for a year and a 350. For me, the logic or the reason behind it would be the 450 guys could just click it up a gear and kind of short shift it and get the grip. Is that not really the case?
It is the case. But like you said, you have to short shift it, and you have to be really good on the throttle. You can use that power to pull you out of the corners at lower RPMs. As Grant Davis making the pass on Mike Wachowski, being very aggressive. Good to see. But yeah, it depends on riding style of each rider.
Shout out to Thad Duvall, and there's obviously Cody Barnes. He was just pulling into the pits, but you know, we're talking a lot about Grant Davis. Yeah, Thad Duvall is in the number 2 spot overall, but he is physically not that far behind Grant Davis. As you look at the elapsed time, he's only about 10 seconds behind when they checked in, and that's probably about what we saw on screen there. I mean, we know how quickly a 10-second gap can evaporate. So, folks, we're not just talking about you know, and look at this now. Angus Riordan checked in, and Angus Riordan
and Cody Barnes. So XC2 is still in the top 4 positions. They're all close.
And here comes Liam Draper. Probably a lot of questions being asked. Hey, what's going on? What happened? You all good? But judging by the body language, he's good. He's just something happened out there that set him back a big chunk of time.
Well, something else that I noticed happened. Looked like Josh Strang had some issues in that pit, and he has given back that number 2 spot to Lyndon Snodgrass.
Dropped his goggles. And then where the pit man was standing with the fuel, it was kind of between his foot, and Josh couldn't reach him. He saw his wife Cam run around the other side of the bike. He ended up reaching him, but man, that can be so frustrating because we keep talking about it earlier in the show, even as we see the Grizzly Grant Baylor on screen now from our Yamaha Racing. Actually, this is our GBC Tires pit stop camera. We'll correct that. But you know, it's one of those things. You work so hard to make those passes, and then something silly like that, and nobody's fault. The goggles just got dropped. I think he was actually grabbing them off the can himself, if I saw correctly. But it's like, man, you just kick yourself. Like, I worked for so long to make that pass, and now I just gave it back.
Yeah, these things happen when the adrenaline's pumping, and he's obviously probably super excited and happy to be in that position. And that's where it's tough to calm yourself down and to just be slow and smooth and methodical with your movements to not make those mistakes.
Yeah, but still right there. And I mean, if you're Josh Strang, I mean, it might be a little frustrating, you know, to give up that position. But at the same time, you know, just knowing, hey, I'm in a podium spot. But now, man, he's got really heavy pressure from behind. We saw in that last camera shot from Stu Baylor. Stu Baylor really looking racy, looking like he wants up into one of those podium spots. He's going to have to go through Josh Strang to do it, though.
Yeah, but we saw Josh Strang make the pass before, so he can do it again.
And getting word, it sounds like it's going to be a 6-lap race. So everybody stopped in, refueled, grabbed some fresh goggles, some hydration as well. And they're back off and rolling as 3 laps complete now. And it's all the XC2 class at the front of the field. Grant Davis, the man on the move, physically has caught up to kind of the back end of that front freight train of XC1 riders. And look at this. Yeah, some of our A-class riders, Nick DeFeo, Jason Tino, looks like Michael DeLosa up there as well, running 16, 17, and 18, all inside the top 20. Gavin Simon there, 20th as well. Really good performance from all of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those A-classes, man, those guys have been on it this year. We've seen Jason Tino and Nick DeFeo both in the top 10 overall already this year. So to do it this early in the race, I mean, I guess we're approaching halfway, or are halfway now. But up into the top 20, we'll see how much higher they can climb. Man, they're on it. They're pushing the pace. But those XC2 guys and XC1 guys definitely not going to make it easy for them. Looks like the pace is starting to just continue to increase, and the battle is just starting to heat up for the win.
So taking a look here at the Yamaha Racing live drone, waiting to catch our leaders on screen. Just kidding, we're going to toss it down to mile 3. Looks like they had already come through, and there was one of the
Johnny Girard got around.
Looked like Johnny Girard, Strang, and then Dante. So looks like Strang may be an issue, and Stu and Johnny
but
both
then
got
that
by.
was all of them. I mean, Craig DeLong, everybody, they were all right there. So that all bunched up. Man, Josh Strang definitely dropped back there. So it looks like Stu Baylor and we did see Grant Davis come through, and there is Thad Duvall. Stu Baylor and also Johnny Girard able to make their way around Josh Strang since our last camera shot. Maybe gone down, but the way they were bunched up almost seemed like maybe we had a little bottleneck there. I don't remember them all being that close together.
Yeah, it takes wheel to wheel to a whole new level because they were almost pulled up alongside. And, yeah, certainly something happening for Strang, things going from frustrating to more frustrating, I'll put it like that, as he had worked hard to maintain those top 3 positions and was trying to remount a charge to Snodgrass.
A lot of ruts there in some of these sections. The bottom, we talk about how hard pack and slick this track is. Some of the bottoms, the valleys, that's where kind of all the moisture gravitates towards, obviously. Now we see Liam Draper. That is our 5th place rider in that XC2 class still on a charge, trying to get himself back up into the battle that he was leading just a lap ago at this very spot. So still on a charge, still looking good, and here comes the leaders, boys.
So it is still Jordan Ashburn out front leading the way. And yes, there has been a pass made, so Strang has gone down, and Stu Baylor looks like he's feeling warmed up, and he's starting to charge toward the front. He wants Lyndon Snodgrass.
Well, interesting there. You see a lot of those guys kind of standing the bike upright and slipping it, almost drifting through those corners. Stu Baylor finding an edge there to bank off of. Hadn't really seen anybody use that line before, but definitely on a charge. I guess this answers the question as to what was the issue with Stu Baylor. Was it an injury? Was it a bike issue at the well, it doesn't necessarily answer the question, but is Stu Baylor ready to go this weekend? The answer, a resounding yes.
Yeah, whatever the issues was, he definitely seems to be feeling better. And you could almost see it looked like he was carrying the weight of the situation on his shoulders. He was mean mugging there in opening ceremonies. Almost had to wait a second. I need to high five some fans real quick. And I think I think he knows, hey, that was my bad race. That was going to have to be my bad result of the season. And because of it, I've got to really step it up. And from here on out, I've got to execute at the top level.
Yeah, absolutely. But he had, keep in mind, the previous 2 races, he had made up a total of 18 points in 2 rounds, 9 points at each of the previous 2 races, being round 6 and 7. So, 5 and 6, and then round 7, giving all of those points back, and then some 29 points. He sits behind Johnny Girard as they run right now, or as they run coming into this race. So we'll see what it is at the end of the day. But the name of the game: score more points than Johnny G.
Hey, absolutely. Keep it simple and bring it home to the checkered flag. We'll show you. This is where things went wrong with Strang. You see the goggles hitting the ground. He was able to get them on, but just a little delayed. There you see Lyndon Snodgrass able to get back by. He reaches up. Looks like he was adjusting those goggles, and you could see just how close Stu Baylor was. We see Ricky Russell getting in and out of the pits as well. But we do know that Stu has made the pass for 3rd. He's setting the charge on Lyndon Snodgrass, trying to chase down Jordan Ashburn.
When I take the bike out like this, all my stresses just melt away.
I hear that. This bad boy can fix anything.
Yep, tough day at work. Nice cruiser sorts you right out.
When I'm riding, I'm not even thinking about my painful cavity.
Oh, you shouldn't ignore that.
And every time I get stressed about having to pay my bills, I just hop on the bike, man.
Oh, come on, man. You gotta pay your bills.
You don't have to worry about anything when you're protected by America's #1 motorcycle insurer.
Well, you definitely do. Those things aren't related, so...
Oh, that is a vibrating pain.
Every generation believes they've invented the best way. With age comes wisdom. We've come to realize that every piece of knowledge is learned, passed down from those generous and patient enough to teach.
Take a look.
Legacy. It's not about leaving something behind to be remembered by. It's realizing that the future lies within the next generation.
Let's call tonight. All right.
The nature of true progress is humbly building something bigger than yourself. Rocky Mountain ATV MC. This is our legacy.
Whatever you drive, however you drive. AMSOIL specially engineers lubricants to maximize power, performance, and protection in your vehicles, so you can work hard and play hard with confidence. Order online at amsoil.com.
Progressive GNCC Racing is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive could save you hundreds of dollars on your automobile and motorcycle insurance. Specialized e-turbo bicycles. It's you, only faster. Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com. Get ready.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round number 8 of the Progressive GNCC Racing Series, the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon here in Mount Morris, Pennsylvania. Zach Herron alongside Johnny Gallagher and Ben Kelly. We've had a fantastic race on our hands so far. We just passed the halfway point, and Jordan Ashburn handling business. Lyndon Snodgrass holding strong in second, but Stu Baylor, he's on the chase, and he's trying to track him down.
Yeah, he's got points to make up from just a round to go, but he's doing it really quickly, moving up into that third-place spot and starting to put some heavy pressure on the front. Not something that we're surprised to see. Stu and his brother, Grant Baylor, both. It seems like it takes them a little bit to get warmed up, but once they get there, they start heading towards the front for sure. It's going to be exciting to watch. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to see if Grant Baylor can pick it up. We know he's strong in that last hour of racing. We're starting to get close to that point. He's got a lot of ground to make up, but the battles in both XC1 and XC2, very hot and heavy at the top. Yeah, absolutely. One of the riders that is back racing with us at the GNCC Racing Series is rough and rowdy Ricky Russell. He had an injury a little bit earlier this year. He's back. He's feeling better, and we were able to catch up with him and check out not only how Ricky's doing, but how his Ampro Yamaha rig is looking and how they prepare for each and every GNCC race.
I'm Ricky Russell. We're going to give you a little behind-the-scenes factory tour of the rig. Come check it out. This is my new 450 FX race machine. It's built by Corey McDonald, and he goes kind of above and beyond on everything, so it's pretty awesome. It's still in the stock form for the most part, just because we got to make sure they last for 3 hours. The 450 is not lacking horsepower anyways, so I actually tune it down a little bit and make it a little smoother so it's just a little more manageable for 3 hours. When you just show up and your bike's ready to go, it's just like a huge stress relief. We're not too worried about it finishing because these guys know what they're doing, so you're always prepared that way. Right here, pretty much, well, it's locked. 450 stuff, 250 stuff, mud and dust prep. That's kind of just our crash cart because all of our mechanics build our bikes at the shop beforehand. Just bring some spare parts and build them at home and they're ready to go. Got our team meeting board, 4 p.m. apparently, so I gotta be here at 4 p.m. So this is the rig. Stuff goes up top. We get new gear every race. So Moose Racing gets us dialed in. We're looking pretty flashy this weekend. So yeah, we get one set every race, so that's kind of nice, or sometimes a couple, depending on the weather. Moose Racing gets us dialed in. We got our e-bikes and line up here, kind of charging station. Just really helps a lot save the legs. These e-bikes are amazing. Yeah, so Yamaha's, we're a little different. We don't have a semi and a big trailer. We got kind of a toter home here. Kind of got a little bit of a like living quarters, and this is Laney, this team track dog. Actually, back in the day when I first rode for this team, they let me stay in here. Me and my teammate Josh Toth at the time were sleeping on these 2 couches, but that was when times were rough. Now we're got our own rigs, and it's kind of a little bit more comfort to have your own little space to get away. Thanks for joining us on the tour. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you out there.
Well, man, that's nice. You show up to the race, everything's ready for you. You got your stuff ready to go. All you got to do is focus on you, your machine, and how to get it to the front of the field as quickly as possible. As we see your leader on screen, Jordan Ashburn, still looking strong.
Stu Baylor into second.
And Stu Baylor has made the pass into second. We'll see. Looks like there is Snodgrass still hanging onto the 3rd place spot, and Johnny Gerard, he's starting to light a fire as well. He wants to get up inside the top 3, and good to see Strang still charging hard, headed back towards the front. There goes Dante Oliveira behind him. There is Ricky Russell, who just gave us that rig tour, and Craig DeLong, he's starting to climb up as well. There's Evan Smith, Mike Wachowski,
Grant Davis.
That was Grant?
Yeah, Grant got passed back by Wiskowski. And look at this. Thad Duvall has actually made up quite a bit of ground, it looks like, on Grant Davis. Grant still will be the overall leader, but I think that gap's starting to open up or close up just a little bit. And look at that. Angus Reardon on the charge, now starting to inch his way ever so much closer to Thad Duvall to battle over that number 2 spot.
And now we see Cody Barnes on the Phoenix Racing Honda. He's trying to close back into that freight train of riders as well. When the XC1 riders, when they're out on track and they look over and they see an XC2 guy, is there a little animosity? Is there a little extra oomph to try to keep them behind you?
Maybe a little bit.
I was going to defer to that one.
If you see an XC2 guy catch you, you're like, come on, you got to be kidding me. That's the last thing you want. But we see Grant. As we have Liam come through now, we see Grant is caught that lead XC1 pack, but it's going to be very difficult for him to work his way through there because those XC1 guys are all really close to the leaders, so they're not going to be giving up an inch. And even though he's caught up a whole minute, I don't think they're going to give him any leeway.
Yeah, they're not going to give him no handouts here in GNCC.
And there is a different dynamic to, kind of what Ben was alluding to there. Like if you're by yourself and you're charging and suddenly you have an XC2 rider right up behind you, you're a lot more likely to just say like, hey man, obviously this guy's got more pace. I'm going to let him by. I'm going to go ahead and use him as a tow to try to drag me back up to the guys I want to be battling with. The problem is in this case, I mean, he's caught a pack of XC1 riders who are all battling and honestly battling over podium spots, battling over top 5s. So at this point, they don't really care if they upset Grant Davis by not letting him by, and rightly so. They're saying, hey, you might have made up some time, but we've got lappers in front of us. We've got riders we're battling, and just like these 2 guys right here, we're wheel to wheel. You want by, you're going to have to earn it. We're not going to give you an inch.
Well, I tell you, a guy who is making some moves, Stu Baylor has closed in significantly within a bike length or 2 of Jordan Ashburn, and it looks like the Red Bull FMF KTM trying to come along with him as Johnny Gerard really starting to apply the pressure to Snodgrass.
There you go. Then we see Josh Strang, then Dante Oliveira. I think we need to keep an eye on Dante Oliveira because this is like a very quick learning situation for him. And look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Just name them off. There they go. They just all went by. He's kind of learning lap by lap, corner by corner, conditions he's obviously not super familiar with, but holding himself right inside a battle for the top 5 there. That could very easily turn into a podium battle or potentially a battle for the win if he just continues to get more comfortable and figure little things out. He's obviously doing a very quick study of these conditions right now.
Well, and it's such a good point that you brought up. These riders might be in 5th, 6th, 7th place physically on track, but in the blink of an eye, something can go on. Next thing you know, they're battling for 1, 2, and 3 on course, and so it'll be interesting to see everybody fighting tooth and nail for each and every spot on course right now. But Stu Baylor trying to reel in the number 3 of Ashburn.
Yeah, and we heard earlier in the year, Stu Baylor talking about, hey, I'm out here racing to feed my family. These guys need to learn. I'm coming to the front. He's proven that today. But again, that is a situational thing. A lot of times, if the pack starts to get strung out and there's nobody in front of them, I could understand Stu's frustration or an XC2's guy's frustration if they're like, hey, man, I just caught you. There's nobody in front of you. You're kind of holding me up. give me a chance to go by, latch onto my rear fender, and go to the front with me. That's my line of thinking anyway. On a day like today, where everybody's just wheel to wheel, no, nobody's going to give you anything because the track's hard to pass on. We talked about kind of that speed limit idea. You can only go so fast, and every track position is so important on a day like today. They're going to fight you for it, and if you try to take an outside line, they're going to run you wide, and I don't blame them for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to do what you got to do. As we check back in on the FMF PowerPoint, you can see, even compared to the last time when we checked in with Jackson, that rut has continued to get deeper and deeper. Wouldn't be surprised to start seeing your leaders looking to the left or right.
Yeah, the rut is getting deeper, and we see even some of the lap riders coming through. They're trying to tuck it to the inside there, cut down early, stay out of that rut to be able to get a better drive up the hill. But the dirt starting to turn up, looking like some more grip, starting to get down past that dry stuff, or past that wet slick stuff, mixing in some dry dirt, and it's just getting a little bit more grip every time we come back to this shot.
And you can see some of the lap riders sitting down and kind of getting bucked all about. Then when the lead pack comes through, a lot of them standing up, their legs are locked to the side of the motorcycle, and several of them picking the front end up as well. You can see which style seems to be working the best.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to confidence. I mean, when you know you have good bike skills, you're not so concerned about using your legs as rudders. You just kind of clamp down on the bike, use the balls of your feet to control it, and you're doing a lot less with your arms and more with your legs. When you're a rookie and a horrible, mediocre or worse rider like myself, you're just thinking, hey, this thing is going to just turn or fly or slide in any direction, so I want to put these rudders, these skis down, and make sure that when I do start sliding, I've got something else to catch me.
So still waiting on your leaders here at the FMF PowerPoint.
Like that.
Ooh. I always love being able to take a look back because like we've said throughout the weekend, these are not bad riders by any means. They have to earn the right in top level classes being in the afternoon race, but it just goes to show how hard some of these conditions are. The track alone, just surviving a lap out here at GNCC. The feet come off the pegs, hanging on for dear life, and then you watch those top guys and they look like they're out on a Sunday cruise.
Yeah, and we've talked about it so many times before as we see Jordan Ashburn on screen again, making it look so easy. Jordan, great bike skills. Stu Baylor moving around a little bit more, but getting great drive up that hill as well. This is one of those things where what looks like we call them lappers. These are riders that when they go to their local or regional series, they are very much in. Look at this. Johnny Gerard's gotten around Lyndon Snodgrass, pulled a little bit of a gap, trying to go after those two leaders. Now here comes Strang. Just behind Strang is Dante Oliveira. Behind Oliveira, we see back there Ricky Russell on the 2. Oh, look at that. And then it is Craig DeLong, Evan Smith, Mike Witkowski, and Grant Davis, your XC2 leaders still there. We'll see what that gap is back, not to Thad Duvall. It looked like it was getting a little bit closer. 10 seconds is what it was at the end of lap number 3. Thad Duvall charging. Now keep in mind, that is not just the gap for the XC2 win. Right now, as they run, that is the gap for the overall win between two XC2 riders, Grant Davis and Thad Duvall.
Yeah, and Stu Baylor obviously has a little more pace here. So if he can get by Jordan Ashburn, I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to continue this aggressive pace to ensure that he doesn't get beat by any XC2 guys.
There we go. And it sounds like our producer, Adam Gordon, telling us the gap now 35 seconds. I believe he's referring to the gap back from our leader, Jordan Ashburn, back to Grant Davis. So it was 38 seconds. So look at that. Grant Davis looking like he was kind of marred and maybe slowed down a little bit by those XC2 guys or XC1 guys he's battling with, but he's actually made up another 3 seconds on the leaders.
Slowly but surely picking away at it. And as is Stu Baylor, kind of back to that yo-yo effect. He catches up, and then something like that, loses a little bit of momentum in a corner, loses a couple of bike lengths to go along with it.
One thing, when you look at, especially from the drone shot, you're so high up in the air. When you see these guys, like they go into a rut and you see top riders or not top riders kind of get hung and they're fumbling, you're thinking, man, it's just a rut. You're a dirt bike rider. Whole new perspective for me after now 2 GNCC races. The cameras do not do those ruts justice. They look like they're maybe 6-8 inches deep when you're watching them from here. Some of those, especially at the Hoosier, like you have to pick your legs up above the shrouds to get through those ruts without dragging your feet. Not quite so deep today, but some of those things are, they're 24 to 30 inches deep, and you just really can't see that unless you're down on the ground level.
Yeah, GNCC and Racer TV, they do a great job of providing live coverage. And this happens in any sports, whether it's pro motocross. The intensity just cannot be captured unless you're here in person. That's why we encourage each and every person to get on GNCCRacing.com and find the closest round to you. Get out here and enjoy it in person, because it's a whole different ball game. Watching you guys go blazing by in the woods, absolutely inches away from trees, skimming leaves off as you come by. It's truly a sight to be seen.
Absolutely. Jordan Ashburn really holding up well under pressure here. I mean, I think if there's one guy behind you right now that's kind of a man on a mission with something to prove and points to gain, it is Stu Baylor, but Jordan Ashburn just seems completely unfazed, not even taking a look over his shoulder. Don't even know if he knows that's Stu Baylor, but it seems like his attitude right now is, hey, I've got the lead, you want it, you're going to have to come through me, and I'm not going to make it easy. He's really riding well, confidently, just hitting his marks and marching along.
Yeah, Jordan is running a really good pace, leading the race here. I didn't get to see this part of the track here. Johnny, maybe you can mention it, but as we see, Stu is not quite on his rear wheel. Maybe this is a part of the track where he knows there's not really a passing opportunity, so maybe he's biding his time, maybe saving a little energy and going to mount the attack on another portion of the track.
Yeah, that section they just went through there, and honestly, even this right here, until you get about halfway through this wood section, it was a bike-only section. Even the youth bike did not run it, so it was completely new dirt when we came into it at 10 a.m. this morning, and I didn't walk anything, I didn't pedal anything, so I was surprised. Very tight. It's wild, though, because we've actually run that section before for a PM only on the ATVs, but it's grown up, you know, all the foliage, all the undergrowth, and even some saplings, and now it's like single track, almost like an enduro. And the fact that there was no rut there at the beginning of the morning race, now they've worked, or are working their way through that section. This is coming back the other way, where it joins back into what was the ATV and youth track as well. But there are some passing lines here around maybe the 10.5 to the 11, but that section we were seeing him in before, absolutely not. It was just very, very one-lined.
So Baylor at the moment looking for a way around. Like Ben said, possibly saving a little bit of energy, has a spot picked out later in the lap. Johnny Gerard has now made the pass for third. Still a solid ride from Snodgrass. He's still hanging tough there in fourth. There you see Oliveira and Strang.
Josh Strang.
Yep.
And he's still riding aggressive. Good to see if he can, Ricky Russell, Craig DeLong, the rest of the pack, see if he can bridge his way up and pull Strang along with him.
Smith Nowakowski back around Grant Davis.
Who's dropped back a little bit.
Yep, lost a little bit of ground there. Is that
Gus Reardon?
Oh, Gus Reardon now around Thad Duvall. So Duvall, that was not Duvall. So still no Duvall coming through the shot. Gus Reardon has put in a charge, starting to close up the gap to the overall and XC2 leader, Grant Davis. But the physical leader, Jordan Ashburn, has some heavy pressure from behind from the 514 of Stu Baylor, folks. This one is starting to get real interesting. Saw Stu Baylor doing that right when he got those goggles as he was coming. If you saw when Josh Strang was fumbling for his, if we go back to that shot, Stu Baylor actually took both of his hands off the handlebars and was shaking his goggles away from his face. Don't know if he got dirt on the inside of the goggles as he was changing them, or if they were already fogging. Not really sure what the situation was, but he had both of his hands off the bars, shaking his goggles around right after he put them on there in the pit stop.
Oh, bad news for the number one of Liam Draper. He looks to be down and down hard.
Yeah, that is a rider who's taken a big hit, if I had to guess. You're not going to see, it's just not quite warm enough for heat exhaustion or anything like that. I believe our man on the scene, Jackson Burrell's going to go out and see if he can get an update, but Liam Draper being helped off his machine, taken around back. We will get you guys an update as soon as we can. Obviously walking under his own power, so that is good news, but looking very, very shaken up.
So tough break there for the number one. Really had a strong ride going. And it just goes to show how quickly things can change.
And coming through for the completion of lap 4, we still have Grant Davis leading the overall, 20 seconds ahead of Jordan Ashburn. But Gus Reardon is there, just 10 seconds behind him.
There you go. So it's Gus Reardon now on the charge and still in that number 2 spot as they are checking in with 4 laps complete now. For the first time in a few laps, we actually see some XC1 guys working their way up into the top 3 overall there, with Jordan Ashburn in the number 3 spot, Stu Baylor in the number 4 spot, and then Cody Barnes rounding out the top 5, sitting 3rd in that XC2 Pro Lights class.
So it sounds like something has happened to Duvall as well. He's fallen off. Have we seen him come through yet?
Watching and refreshing.
No, we haven't seen Thad come in for the completion of lap 4 yet.
So it looks like issues for your XC2 rider. He was having a solid day as well.
Yeah, it looked like Stu Baylor and Johnny Gerard had the fastest lap times there, just 1 second apart. So they're definitely on the move.
Still no Thad Duvall checked in. He is now dropped all the way back to 15th place. We're being told that Stu Baylor may possibly come in, if I had to guess, maybe for some fresh goggles. Seems like he's not real happy with those, but oh my. All right, just a pit board.
Well, I heard the video from Blake. If he doesn't care about a broken foot, he's probably not too worried about a set of goggles either. And so,
very true.
I don't know what the pit board said, but it probably just said, keep going.
And whatever the issue was, that was the section where we saw him do it a lap ago, and then we saw him do it again at the finish line. It is so easy when you're putting those goggles on. You know, you've got mud on top of your helmet. When you kind of look down to put those goggles on, a chunk could fall off the top of your helmet, fall into the goggles. And as you're riding, you know, Ben, you could attest. I mean, the most annoying thing in the world is a dry chunk of dirt just bouncing around on the inside of your goggles. So if you have the opportunity, wherever it may be, to take and just kind of shake it out, get that out of it can just really refocus you and get you back to the task at hand.
Well, and it sounds simple, but trying to get the dirt to come out, like it magically somehow finds a pocket every time, especially when you're trying to do it one-handed like Stu was after the finish line. So took him a couple of seconds there, but
he's made up the gap quickly, though. He's right back to the rear wheel of Jordan Ashburn. You know, Ben pointing out earlier that it seemed like Stu did have more pace, and that continues to look to be the case as we watch this one now at the beginning of lap number 5.
Speaks to the confidence of Stu. Felt like he was able to sacrifice a couple of seconds there, protect the eyes as well. And like we said, has remade that gap up and is back on the rear wheel of Jordan Ashburn.
We look back, third place in that XC1 class is still Johnny Gerard. 12 seconds is the gap that he is behind Stu Baylor. So he was a little closer before, but it looked like he was starting to charge. All right, we're getting an update that there was a wheel being prepared in the Red Bear Rocky Mountain ATV MC pits. There was some confusion about that it may have been for Stu Baylor. Actually, we're told that it might be, and we'll keep an eye on Thad Duvall, who is coming in for a rear wheel change. Don't know if it's a tire issue, a wheel issue, but that is the word on the street. We'll keep a camera over there, see if we can get a shot of it. But a bummer deal for Thad Duvall, as he has still not checked in with 4 laps complete.
I mean, the wheel issue could be to the point where he's no longer able to move. I don't know the ruling on that, but if you're stuck out there, I would hope that your team could come out and get you rolling again with a new wheel.
Yeah, I believe if he can get a wheel out there, he would be allowed to change it, but they cannot use a pit vehicle to take it out there. Look at this, leader. On screen, Stu Baylor has taken the lead away from Jordan Ashburn, and for the first time today, the Red Bear Rocky Mountain ATV MC Kawasaki of Stu Baylor out front and leading the way, but Jordan Ashburn not looking like he wants to give it up so easy, looking very racy, like he wants that lead back right away.
Man, oh man, how about that?
Jordan was really close to getting the overall win at his local inaugural Tennessee round, so and he lost to this Stu Baylor guy. So let's see if he can bring the fight to him and regain the lead.
How about that? You know, Ben, you were obviously you got to see that one with us as well. You know, here on Racer TV, like that was the first time I've ever seen that kind of emotion out of Jordan Ashburn. I mean, he's normally just so level-headed, kind of an aw shucks kind of guy. I mean, on the race course, I've been told that he is an absolute warrior. You know, will fight you clean, but will fight you for every inch on the racetrack. Is not an easy guy to pass. But when he comes across the finish line, it's just kind of he's a very southern aw shucks. You know, it was a good day. Wish we could have got the win, or we got the win, we got it done. It was a great day. It was a great championship. But after that, man, you could see some fire. Actually, and I don't know, Mikey had kind of pointed out, looked like he threw his goggles down after the race. He was just very frustrated. I think a lot of emotion, you know, home race, wanting to get the win, and that may carry over to a day like today, like you pointed out. Hey, this is the guy that ripped that win away from me in my hometown. Now I'm going to take this one off him.
Yeah, that race was definitely personal to Jordan Ashburn, and I'd say it's just because of how local it was.
And a big charge from him at the end there. We were already talking about, you know, miles out from the finish line, how Stu Baylor had this one in hand. It was essentially over. He had a big gap, and we just saw Jordan just wouldn't give up on it. Just kept pushing and pushing. Stu Baylor said he flamed out, I believe it was.
Well, he had a couple crashes we saw on the live drone, so that's one of those things where Jordan did the right thing. You never give up, because even if you're down by 30 seconds or more, you never know if the guy in front of you is going to have an issue.
Yep, and here are our XC2 leader at the 3-mile marker, and a couple of the XC1 guys in front of him are the same running order when they came by is what we're expecting to see. It is still Stu Baylor out front. Is still Jordan Ashburn in the number 2 spot, but it still is the 9:22 of Grant Davis leading the overall on corrected time. Second place in that overall, Angus Reardon from that Trail Jesters KTM team. So my bad, the Landers KTM team. You got to believe that pit is just a buzz over there right now with those guys running 1-2 in the overall.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like there's still a bit of a gap between Grant Davis and Gus Reardon, but we'll see if Gus can keep this pace up and catch him with Cody Barnes, 3rd place in XC2 now.
Yeah, looking at the lap times, though, 29:13 for Gus Reardon to a 29:25 for Grant Davis. So if he keeps that pace up, those guys will be basically wheel-to-wheel a lap from now when they check in with 5 laps complete.
Checking back in with your XC1 leader, Stu Baylor has taken over the lead. And Jordan Ashburn still close in tow.
Johnny Gerard looks like he is making up some more time.
Yep. And Dante coming along with him.
Lyndon Snodgrass, Josh Strang, Craig DeLong, Evan Smith, Ricky Russell, Mike Witkowski, and Grant Davis. You can see the lappers starting to get a little thicker, and that can break things up pretty quickly. Just that little bit of break in your momentum. You get a couple bike lengths off the guy in front of you. Sometimes you just try too hard. Next thing you know, you're spinning the rear wheel, find yourself on the ground, and it can become a struggle very quickly.
Yeah, and it's hard for these lappers. It's not like they're just having to let one guy by. You know, they pull off the track, they probably look back and see 7 or 8 of them coming, and they're just parked there for 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, and that is, I've been in those battles before where you're just wheel to wheel to wheel to wheel, and when you come up on lappers and they pull over, you can almost see the frustration. It's like, man, I was pulling over for one guy, not 11, but at the same time, when you're wheel to wheel, you do not want that lapper to pull back in front of you.
Well, let's take you through exactly what happened. We missed the pass, but when they came out, it was the Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki of Stu Baylor taking over the lead with Jordan Ashburn on that Coastal Racing gas hot on his heels. He wants the number 1 spot back. How about the points leader, Johnny Gerard? He's back there in 3rd, trying to close the gap up as well. We're going to get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC.
I'm Stu Baylor, and you're watching GNCC Live on RacerTV.com.
Unleash aggression, reliability, and premium quality with Kenda Tires. Delivering exceptional performance on all types of vehicles. Automotive, ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, bicycles, trailers, lawn and garden, and even golf. Trust Kenda Tires to guide you on your next adventure. Kenda, designed for your journey.
Born of family values and a homegrown work ethic, Cometic Gasket seals your machine so you can focus on the finish line. Cometic Gaskets are the competitive standard for racers who demand the very best inside their engine. Cometic Gaskets are always constructed from superior materials designed to perform in the most demanding environments. Whether it's a championship on the line or a day in the dirt with friends, professionals and enthusiasts alike depend on Cometic. Cometic Gasket, sealing championships since 1989.
On Track School is an online private school catering to some of the top athletes in the world. We offer a flexible schedule for students that are chasing their dreams and always on the go. We are an accredited K-12 school where students can graduate with a diploma. Scan the QR code or call us to book an appointment with one of our learning coaches to discuss your students' next steps.
All right, and hello, everybody.
And you're watching GNCC Live on RacerTV.com.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC. Zach Herron alongside Johnny Gallagher and Ben Kelly. Stu Baylor, the man you just saw on your screen, has taken over the lead, and he's got Jordan Ashburn in tow. We already got to catch up with Jordan, learn a little bit more about the Eagle, as I'm going to start calling him. But let's take a look under the helmet of Stu Baylor and get to know Stuart Baylor just a little bit better.
If I wasn't introduced with a dirt bike at all, I'd probably be sitting on a bulldozer. I love moving dirt. That's my, probably enjoy that more than dirt bikes in general. The last person to make me nervous, man, it's got to be my wife. Like, she keeps me on eggshells. But outside of that, like, as far as racing goes, not really anybody. Like, nobody's ever really, I guess, made me nervous or ever really weighed too heavily on the way that I would perform. You know, there was guys like Caleb Russell. He definitely lived rent-free in my mind, but not ever made me nervous. Everything's like racing. I don't even know. Like, I guess having a kid, that's probably like the greatest. But outside of that, like, everything's racing. So it's crazy. My first motorcycle was a 1998 KTM 50. I still have it. And will never get rid of it. I wish I knew when to keep my mouth shut sometimes, but sometimes I don't. It's not really a talent. I don't know. My talent's dirt bike racing. Like, I used to would think golf, but I hate golf now. So, like, I don't even care to have that talent. Like, it sucks. It makes me mad. I can't really think of one. My hobbies are like dirt bikes and dirt bikes. And cooking, yeah, but I'm already good at that. So, like, I stick to things that I know I'm good at, and I try to avoid others. If I had one superpower, to read a woman's mind. It's impossible, but, like, that would be great, right? My spirit animal, an alligator. This one tried to take my hand and I got it back. Alligator didn't make it. Long story. DNR got involved. Probably don't need to get into too many details. Just about lost my hand though. Johnny Gerard held my arm while Caleb Russell held the gator, or vice versa, and Ryder Lafferty made sure that we got to take the gator taken care of. Crazy story. The most misunderstood thing is, I think people think that I'm an asshole a lot of times, or unapproachable. And I'm not an asshole, I'm just direct. So some people just take that as not being a nice guy, but I'm just too forward for some people. If you're not crashing, you're not trying hard enough. Now granted, like, I try not to crash, but yeah, like, that's probably one, and the other one is, like, for me, like, never give up. Like, there's never been a point in anything that I've done where it's like, I'm gonna give up. I've thought about it, I've considered it, but it's like, for me, in general, doesn't matter what it is. Like, I would lose $1 million before I gave up on something that I've set out to do.
Never give up. Wise words from Stu Baylor, and it paid off for him so far here today. He never gave up, and now he finds himself in that #1 spot.
Yeah, that's really been kind of the motto throughout Stu Baylor's career. I mean, he's had his back against the wall so many times. Sometimes maybe because of that, not knowing when to keep his mouth shut, he mentioned, but right now out front on the hammer, leading the way and starting to open up a gap. Jordan Ashburn still pretty close there, though. Maybe not right on his rear wheel, but Stu Baylor, we've talked about it so many times on screen here. You can question a lot of things about a lot of people, but one thing no one ever could or should question is Stu Baylor's heart, dedication, and how badly he wants to win, wants to be competitive. And he said it. I'm only really good at a couple things, cooking and riding my dirt bike. I did think he would have mentioned hunting. You see a lot of, he seems like he travels the world over trying to get himself some big bucks. But now we see looks like Dante Oliveira coming by. There is Craig DeLong, and just in between those two was Lyndon Snodgrass on that Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki. Then it's Evan Smith working his way through here at the 6.5 mile marker. And then Josh Strang on that Factory JS Sherco. Mike Wachowski just behind him. We'll be expecting to see Ricky Russell still in the fight, lost a little bit of ground, and Grant Davis now starting to fall further and further back. Angus Reardon has taken over the lead and gotten around Grant Davis. We have a new leader in the XC2 class, and possibly, we'll see with time correction, a new leader for that overall. We know that definitely some time had been lost there. Grant Davis had been much up. He was actually in front of Wachowski earlier in the lap, and now has dropped back and lost some time, and it has caused him to cough up the lead in that XC2 class.
Yeah, maybe he just was charging a little too hard early on in the race. I know that's something I've done in the past from XC2. It's easy to get excited, especially when someone like Grant made his way all the way up into the XC1 pack.
Yeah, and I kind of alluded to it before, but I think there was a crash a few weeks ago for Grant Davis, and he is coming in a little nursing, some banged up and bruised body parts. Said he was just going to put it out of his mind and go for it, though. It worked for about 2 hours, but now he's lost some time. Still running very solidly in a podium battle and a battle for the win in that XC2 class, but that could be it, or maybe he just went down. No way to know. We won't know until they cross the finish line, and we find out then.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, going to give you a quick XC2 update. I just heard from Jackson Burrow. It sounds like Liam Draper is okay, pretty shaken up, but at the moment they don't see anything specifically broken or really damaged on the body, which is great to hear. And then it does sound like that Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki team is out trying to find Thad Duvall and get him back running.
There we go. We got a big shakeup. Things coming through here. Evan Smith, look at that. You saw that right hand just locked, making as much noise as he can. Then it's Strang. Then it's Wachowski. And, man, these guys all so close together. This one's just too close to call and too tough to call.
Seeing one rider losing several pieces of plastic there.
Easy to make some contact. Here comes Ricky Russell on that Ampro Racing Yamaha. Welcome back to racing for Ricky, and he's solidly holding himself in there. And, we are told now the gap back is 55 seconds. What was down to 38 seconds is now 55. So those guys have given up very nearly 20 seconds of that gap, and we'll see what that translates to. They did have a 29-second when it was at 38. I believe it was a 29-second advantage, so they may still be just holding on by their fingertips to that overall lead with time correction, but a lot of time given up there.
Yeah, it was Grant Davis who was that close, and we're seeing him drop back, and Gus actually making up time. But as we saw, Stu Baylor is in the lead now, and he's charging, and I think the guy to look at is Johnny Gerard, who's in third. He seems to really be aggressive and trying to make his way to the front, and that will only push Stu Baylor more. So I feel like as we get late in this race, we're going to see those XC1 guys break away from the XC2 leaders a little bit.
See Stu really pushing hard. How much of an advantage is for him? On screen, we caught Jordan Ashburn losing the rear end. Looks like he will still hold on to the #2 spot, but we should see Johnny Gerard popping out here very soon. No, he's actually able to get through that section and get out of sight. So Johnny looked like he had, Johnny almost very nearly doing the same thing, a very slick corner there. He saves it, but then behind him, that is Lyndon Snodgrass there in the #4 spot. No, it's not.
I don't think so, but you could see there coming out of the woods, there's a nice loamy rut and then the polished dirt right after that. So they're hard on the gas through the rut, and then the second they get on that polished dirt, the back tire just steps out on them.
So there is Oliveira. There is Snodgrass there. Then it's DeLong. And is that Evan Smith still behind him there? Nope, that was Josh Strang. There was another rider in there, and then Mike Wachowski. Then we take a look back, and we wait and we watch, and this should be the battle for our XC2 lead coming into the camera shot.
I believe that was Ricky Russell almost going down.
Yep. And then it is Angus Reardon, just behind him, the 922, his teammate of Grant Davis. So leading this one through its entirety so far, but now giving up the lead, Angus Reardon wrestling it away and grabbing the lead. So, man, that's a big shake-up there.
Yeah, Grant Davis is still really close. See what he can do if he can try to hang that wheel of Gus, but Gus has the momentum as he's worked his way up through the pack after that crash on the start.
And that's a statement ride from Reardon as well, not getting a good start and having to work his way through the pack. And if he's able to bring this thing home, you know he's going to feel good. It always feels good to win, but it's a whole other thing when you had to work that much harder to get the job done.
Chase Sexton, second moto yesterday.
Spoiler.
Wow, that was. Oh, sorry. Come on, it's been 24 hours.
I've seen it.
Okay,
I got yelled at earlier today talking about it.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but he put in a pretty good ride. This guy right here on camera putting in a heck of a ride right now. Stu Baylor telling us a little bit about himself, telling us his spirit animal is an alligator. Well, he's like an alligator stalking his prey. He grabbed his prey, shook it. That was Jordan Ashburn. Jordan Ashburn trying now to get back up and rolling to speed. He's given up a gap there. We saw him hit the deck just a moment ago, and just behind him should be, and there he is, the 969 of Johnny Gerard getting great drive up that hill, carrying the front wheel. That is your top three as they come through at the FMF PowerPoint.
Had that thing hooking up going up the hill. I thought he was going to loop her out for a second.
All of the Ugga-Duggas, man, just putting it right to the ground, carrying the front end up. And then it is our visiting rider from the West Coast, Dante Oliveira, followed very, very closely by Lyndon Snodgrass, Craig DeLong, and it is Evan Smith still hanging in there. Solid ride for him today. Josh Strang and Mike Witkowski.
On a day like today, let's take somebody like an Evan Smith, like a Craig DeLong, coming off of a win at the last round. Obviously, he wants to be up there in the podium positions and stuff like that, but looking at the distance between first to fifth or sixth, is it a positive that you can take away saying, I know I didn't get the number result that I was looking for, but I was still within this amount of seconds or only a couple of minutes from the lead, or is it, if it's not I'm on the podium, I'm upset? Ben, Johnny, either one of you.
I think it can go either way. I think it's based upon expectations. I think it is a good observation, but sometimes it can almost be more frustrating. When guys are this close together, you're like, man, so we are told the update from the lead back 1 minute 13 to the leader of XC2, meaning Stu Baylor has now wrestled away the overall lead even with the time correction, and that just goes to show the pace that they are putting down. He and Jordan Ashburn and Johnny Gerard and pretty much the whole front half of that XC1 class really starting to really pour the coal to it. It can go either way, man. It's so frustrating. I finished a race, it was many, many years ago, and I think I finished like 8th overall, but I was 13 seconds from the win. It was one of those ones where it just, the last lap, we kind of all bunched up, and you're like, yeah, I was only 13 seconds from winning the race, but I got 8th. So it's like you feel like you rode well, but then you start questioning every little, if I would have gotten a better start, if I would have made this pass then, if I would have taken that line. And I think if you're Craig DeLong, I think the big thing, he is known to be such a good starter. He was bringing up the rear off the start today. I did not see exactly what happened off the line, but I watched him coming out of turn 1, and he was last or second to last, and that has just made an uphill battle for him today.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the points don't care exactly how many seconds behind you are.
I think the expectation part of it, like if you're in kind of a slump and you're not riding well, you're not near the front, and then maybe you do finish 11th or 10th or 8th or 7th or whatever it may be, and it's a better finish than what you've been getting, and you're that close to the front. It is a completely different perspective than getting 8th and being 10 minutes back. So sure, you're like, man, you can use it as encouragement, but if you're in a case like Craig DeLong, where you're the defending champion, you're just coming off a win, if he can't get up into a podium position, I'd say he's going to be pretty frustrated today.
Waiting for your leaders to pop back out for the Yamaha Live drone. And there he is, Stu Baylor. He timed it out, waited for the right moment, and tracked down Jordan Ashburn, made the pass, and now he's trying to set sail. And to your point, you guys called it. I still thought even if he did get around Ashburn, he was going to keep that sprint pace going. I think they're more than aware of the XC2 situation and the overall podium at stake, as now, as we get the word from OPAG, it sounds like he has wrestled that lead back overall for the moment.
Yep, and it looks like he's continued to stretch it out over Jordan Ashburn and also Johnny Gerard, looking like Ashburn actually opened up a little bit more of a gap on Gerard. So as Stu Baylor stretches things out at the front, it seems like it's starting to pull that front pack apart in that XC1 class. Now it is Dante Oliveira in the number 4 spot. But look at this, Lyndon Snodgrass starting to put pressure on, running up in a podium position early. He wants to get back up there.
So here we have your leaders at the 11-mile mark. Stu Baylor standing on the pegs all the way around. And seeing a couple of our lap riders there pulling off to the side, giving way to Jordan Ashburn.
Looks like it's a little over a 10-second gap now that Stu Baylor has built up.
With that crash we saw from Jordan, but Jordan's still looking like he's riding really good, really strong. As we see, he's pulling away from Johnny Gerard a little bit. So yeah, I don't think we can count any of those guys out of it.
And there we saw just on the backside of the screen, Oliveira, Snodgrass, and DeLong really starting to put the pressure on the Babbitts Online Kawasaki rider. Evan Smith just behind them. And you've got Strang.
That's what you were talking about just a little bit ago there, Ben. That lap rider pulled out of the way thinking and he just kept looking back, and they just kept coming and coming. And he was like, man, like, hey, guys, I got a race to run too. But he was very patient, waited there. And, you know, he'll be rewarded with not having rev bombs behind him, 450 and 350cc machines rung out, making your eardrums bleed.
Yeah, and luckily he was smart enough to look behind him before just entering back onto the track, because he could end up just being like a bug on a windshield.
5 laps complete. That is a white flag waving in the hands of Ricky Towery. Now our 3rd place rider coming across the line, Johnny Gerard. As we check the gaps there as they're checking in, Ben, what is the tale of the transponders?
Yeah, it looks like Johnny is just under 30 seconds behind the leaders. Behind the leader of Stu Baylor.
So there we go. It's 12.9 seconds back to Jordan Ashburn in the number 2 spot, and then another 11.5 seconds back to Johnny Gerard there in the number 3 spot. We will wait and see when those XC2 riders check in, but from what we're getting for the splits out on the course, it looks like at least Stu Baylor for sure has displaced them and now taken over the overall lead, even with the time correction.
Yeah, and Stu Baylor with a really fast lap there. The only guy so far to be sub 29 minutes. The track seems to be shaping up and getting faster and faster as the race wears on.
So we saw Baylor and Ashburn up and over.
We do see our XC2 riders checked in. Angus Reardon in the number 2 spot overall, but with a lap time of 29.18, Stu Baylor able to go 18 plus another 7, so 25 seconds faster than, 25 seconds faster than what Angus Reardon was on that last lap of racing.
Yeah, so now it looks like he's got about a 13-second. Stu Baylor has a 13-second lead on corrected time over Gus Reardon.
There you
second
go.
overall.
So still close, but at the pace Stu's riding right now, Gus and Grant Davis, if they're able to hook up and start pushing each other, are really, really going to have to push it to match that pace. Doable, but no easy task.
So watching Ashburn make his way down the fence line. We saw Stu Baylor go by just a moment ago. And what's funny is at the beginning of the race, we were talking about Ashburn kind of going to the left, to the right, trying to get in some of that grass. We saw in that exact shot earlier, he was able to get some great traction. Now all that grass is gone, everybody fading wide. And we saw Stu Baylor there getting some encouragement from his team. As does Jordan Ashburn.
A little encouragement from his former mechanic.
Yep. Baylor really looking like he's on rails right now. He's just hitting his marks, charging. You can see, you always watch the chicken wing, the right hand as those guys come up on lappers. They're just making all the noise that they can to let them know that they're there. Coming the other way, it looks like this may be the XC2 battle. It is wheel to wheel between the Landers Racing KTM teammates of Gus Reardon and Grant Davis. Man, they are really close together. And actually, there was Well, I guess we're looking at the overall, but on a lapse time, actually, Jordan Ashburn is between them, which is hard to believe considering they're physically just about touching each other on the racetrack.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Grant Davis wants to give up this win. We got, what, 1 lap to go?
Yeah, white flag is waving. Here. This is the final lap. This will determine who brings home the win today in the overall, in the XC1 class, in the XC2 class. And, man, none of it is really decided, but Stu Baylor starting to put a little bit of question in the minds of Jordan Ashburn, Johnny Gerard, and the rest. Can they get it done right now? He's just stretching it out. It's seemingly a little bit each and every camera shot.
Well, I tell you what, I'm starting to question the 2 Landers racing KTMs, obviously in a wheel-to-wheel, bar-to-bar battle. We've seen that slow the pace down of riders before. Do we see the potential battle for the XC2 win take them out of contention for the overall podium?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now what's taking them out of contention is the pace that Stu Baylor's laying down. But I don't think that them battling is necessarily going to help them move forward in the overall. You never know. It could go either way. Sometimes, you know, if Stu Baylor had a big lead and he was out front and didn't know those guys were back there, I could see. But I think Stu is not, he's not far enough in front of Jordan that he's comfortable. I think he's pushing it for all that it's worth at this point. And Jordan has just shown, like we talked about a few rounds ago in Tennessee, he will not give up until the checkered flag flies. So I think the pace those guys are pushing may be kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, putting that overall out of reach for our XC2 leaders today.
Could we see it knock them off the podium if it slows them down at all?
Well, I mean, as we look at gaps, I mean, Johnny Gerard sitting in that 5th place overall with an elapsed time of 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 1 second. Gus Reardon sitting in 2nd, 2 hours, 21 minutes, 49 seconds. So 11, 12 seconds basically is the difference between those guys clinging to a podium right now. We did see them with a lead of 29 now, and that was in the overall. Now, just hanging on to a podium position, they've got some pressure from behind in the form of Johnny Gerard.
Yeah, we'll see. I honestly think the fact that Grant Davis is back on the rear wheel of Gus, that will push Gus to ride a little bit faster. Going for the overall, it's going to be tough because Stu is really on one right now. But if those guys can work together to push the pace, they can still fight for that overall podium, maybe go 2-3. And those guys getting in between Stu and Johnny would be, man, that'd be a pretty big point swing in Stu's favor. But yeah, still, even though we're on the last lap, a lot of racing to go.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Johnny has alluded to this year. You know, a rider that was just so focused on going as fast as he could. Has said multiple times this year, yep, I got those 2 wins. You know, that was great at the beginning of the year. That said, I'm focused on the war, not the individual battles. And sitting in a podium position in that XC1 class, yes, he's going to want to put it on the box if he can. Of course, he's going to try this last lap to run down Jordan Ashburn. And if he's able to do that, of course, he's going to try to go after Stu Baylor. But right now, it seems like every effort he's put in has been thwarted by Jordan Ashburn just continuing to press the pace in pursuit of Stu Baylor. He's just not able to close it up. So at some point, you got to wonder if he's thinking, man, this track's slick. I'm just going to ride this in, take my 3rd place spot. But I'm sure those pit boards are telling him, hey, you've got some XC2 guys here in the mix, which is points that are available.
So Ashburn trying to keep it close, trying to stop Stu from riding away with it. We'll wait to see. There is Johnny Gerard. And should be the rest of that XC1 freight train coming up. There is teammate Dante Oliveira.
Craig DeLong there in the number 5 spot. Lyndon Snodgrass in 6th. Evan Smith in 7th.
So Craig DeLong made his way by Lyndon.
Then it is Mike Witkowski. One of those riders you may be talking about, if you're Mike Witkowski, obviously coming off a 5.54 in the last 3 races, you want to build, you want to keep moving forward. But at the same time, sitting back there in that 7th, 8th place spot as he runs right now, and then being pushed back in the overall by at least 2 XC2 riders as they run, going to be frustrating. But at the same time, man, so close. You can see the podium right there in front of you. So it's...
Wow. Okay. So OPAG telling us 59 seconds, 0.16 between Jordan Ashburn and your XC2 leaders.
So that would still put the 1-2 guys of Gus and Grant on the overall podium.
Yep.
Well, it's not always exactly a minute, so it could go either way, but that just shows how close it is. I mean, it's literally going to come down, as they run right now, it would come down to bike lengths at the finish line, not even seconds, just millimeters, fractions of a second could mean the difference between Jordan Ashburn being on the podium. Would it be Angus Rudin? Would it be both Angus Rudin and Grant Davis if they swap positions? And Johnny Gerard looks like he may have made up a little bit of time there in that camera shot, and it almost looked like Ashburn had made up just a tiny little bit on Stu, but there's still enough distance between them that in the tighter sections of racetrack they cannot see each other.
Yeah, you never know how much information they're getting from the mechanics, but they don't need to be telling them that the XC2 guys are there. They should just be letting them know that they should keep pushing all the way to the finish.
Are you one that doesn't want that kind of information? You just want to know if you can settle in, or if you need to keep pushing, you don't want to know why it is. In the case of, hey, there's nobody in front of me, I can see a wide open racetrack, and they're telling you to keep pushing, some people might question, that logic if you don't know why. Others are, I think it's that relationship between mechanic and rider. Do you want to know the specifics of why, or do you just want me to tell you if you need to just keep trying to stretch that throttle cable?
No, I'd like to know. I mean, they could say something just as simple as like XC2 coming, keep pushing.
Yeah.
That way because they might say keep pushing, and you look behind you, you're like, there's no XC1 guy on me. Like, well, why am I pushing?
Yep.
So it's good to know.
Getting a little bit of that in-helmet knowledge there for Ben Kelly. And looks like we're going to get ready to send things over to a break. But first, we got to show you how things are going down. Stu Baylor still maintaining the lead at the moment. He's trying to stretch it out, but Jordan Ashburn's hanging close in that second place spot. And it looks like the man on the move might be Johnny Gerard trying to hang on to that overall podium. And, of course, we got Grant Davis and Gus Reardon trying to get the XC2 on the overall box as well. We'll be back to the Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon GNCC.
Let's go racing! Full contact! Look at that lead! Down to the inside! Jet Lord still on top. Oh, the podium's here. I don't think any atmosphere can match it. Nothing quite like pro motocross.
We've been there since the very beginning.
20 left, the main event, the mud, the blood, the beer.
Organizing the industry and building champions. "100 years of defending your rights to ride into the future."
Community, family, teamwork. It's what we have stood on for over a decade. Hauling might be what we do at the surface, but it's much deeper than that. Because what you need matters. When you need a haul, give us a call at 724-852-4488. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, we at JD Enterprises are prepared to serve you.
It takes commitment, passion, and endurance to make something great. Made by champions, for champions.
Progressive GNCC Racing is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive could save you hundreds of dollars on your automobile and motorcycle insurance. Specialized E-Turbo bicycles. It's you, only faster. RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round number 8 of the 2024 Progressive GNCC Racing Series. The Parts Unlimited Mason-Dixon, and what a weekend we have had. We have had dog shows, we've had station showdowns, and we had an EMTB doubleheader weekend. Twice the EMTB racing action. We're going to give you guys the highlights of all of the weekend's action. We had 2 days of racing, but a lot of the same results, a lot of the same winners. Cypress Gorey, the man to beat out of the XC1 class.
Yeah, man, they were absolutely honking out there. It was interesting. I got out into the woods, was watching those guys. Unbelievable the amount of watts they're putting out. You know, we talk about horsepower in the power sports world, but these guys, it's watts. They are just pushing on those pedals and willing themselves along there. We see Talon Hawk grabbing the early lead in that XC2 class, but man, I got to tell you, it was Brock Hepler, I believe, taking the win in that class. A former name that some of the moto people in the world would know, a guy that used to be pretty fast on a dirt bike himself.
Absolutely, yeah, Brock Hepler. When I read the name, I had to do a double take. It. The Brock Hepler, he's out there. Should have known from the number 60, right? But he did a great job grabbing that XC2 win. We saw the number 411, Don Hampton, our very own director, going out there, throwing a little bit of style, threw a cross up there on the first round, giving Ricky Towery a knuckle coming across the line for the second race. But at the front of the field, Cypress Gorey, he needed to respond. Him and Ben Ort came into the round 3, which was the first round of the doubleheader, tied in points, and man, he responded in the best way he could. That's winning both races. But how about Cody Pivorato jumping up into the podium conversation and stealing second both days, with Ben Ort finishing 3rd in the first round and 4th in the second round of the weekend for rounds 3 and 4 of the EMTB series. There you see Cypress picking it up on one wheel. Guy didn't even look like he was breathing hard. Somebody needed to tell him, you just finished a long day of mountain bike racing. This is day number 2, and I mean, it's a different chapter, but the same story. A great start there from Cypress Gorey. Cody Pivorato locks onto the back end. Talon Hawk, once again, rocket ship off of the start. Ashley Hendershot and Jenny McFall go into battle in that WXC class as well. Philip Solon handling business in the youth class. And this is one of those sports and one of the competitions where the riders are high-fiving, they're hugging, they're talking as they're going around. I mean, Johnny, you participated in several of these. It's a ton of good competition. It's good racing, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ben Kelly actually did an e-bike race as well back when he was recovering from an injury, I believe back in 2020. Yeah,
come back from the shoulder.
He chased his mentor, Charlie Mullins, who was pretty good on an e-bike and a mountain bike. Ben gave him fits throughout much of the race there. I believe almost nearly all the way to the finish line. And
I was just a few seconds behind him there. It was funny. I got the whole shot and led I think majority of the first lap, but until I let him by, and then he ended up crashing into a tree in front of me. I was stopping. We were laughing and joking, and I just let him keep going. But, it was a good time. But even though you have an electric assist, it's not easy.
Yeah, it is certainly not easy by any means. It is still you, only faster, the Specialized Turbo there. And once again, a huge congratulations to Cypress Gorey, your XC1 doubleheader winner on both days. As we check back in to the Monster Mile, mile number 6, we're waiting on what we believe will be the Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki of Stu Baylor. There he is, right on cue. How about that? Leading the way, trying to bring things home here at the Mason-Dixon.
So do you feel like when Stu Baylor coming through, obviously that Monster Energy helmet that he has, look at this. Jordan Ashburn has closed up the gap, and Johnny Gerard right there as well. So what was starting to look like it was all but decided, just like what we saw in Tennessee. Jordan Ashburn saying, no, sir, the race is not over. I ain't seen no checker flag.
Hey, absolutely, and it looked like Johnny Gerard's got the same mentality, hanging on for dear life, trying to keep that KTM planted and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a little loose, but when you're Johnny Gerard, loose is fast.
Yeah, he was up on the gas tank and just letting that back tire dance around, drift around the corners, but that's something he's used to. And at that last round, we saw him make a really good last lap charge to catch up to Craig DeLong, so it looks like he's trying to do the same thing here.
Shout out to that man right there, Dante Oliveira, but he's got heavy pressure from behind our defending champion, Craig DeLong, and Lyndon Snodgrass, and Evan Smith, and Mike Witkowski.
Yeah, that pack has been fun to watch all day, just wheel to wheel.
And.
Small gap back to the next group of riders. We're still watching the stopwatch. There is, looks like Gus Reardon still leads the way for those XC2 riders. Whoa, getting a little sideways is Grant Davis. He hangs on to slideways. Yes, that's trademarked. You owe me a quarter.
I'll give you $1.
There
so
it
I can
is.
use it 3 more times.
There it is. He's going to save him for later. But Davis still looking like he was pushing, trying to catch up to the rear end of Reardon.
Absolutely. You know, he looked like he might have been trying to get an inside line on there. Maybe not to make the pass, but just get a drive up the hill, let him hear that machine and know he's still back there. But getting a little too far inside and almost kissing one of those monster cans. We saw some contact with those yesterday, or near contact. Looked like Bryson Neal nearly clipping one, Walker Fowler nearly clipping one. It was those things. It's like fans out there. If you're a monster rider, you know, like that's your team. They're cheering you on, and Stu Baylor coming through. They're getting a little bit of extra juice, a little extra energy heading towards the finish line.
They were disappointed. They were like, oh, that's a poster. I thought that was a really big can. I was really thirsty. And so, no, it's exciting to see. And these monster miles, that's why we always try to get a camera out here. We know this section is going to be action-packed. And Davis hanging on for dear life, as was Johnny Girard, but nonetheless, the right wrist never wavered, keeping it wide open and pushing forward as we see the rest of your lead group making their way through.
And we see one of the Coastal team members working their way through the camera shot as well.
Getting some camera time for the sponsors while we wait for the bikes to come through.
Well, you know, great segue there. The team leader for that Coastal Racing, actually, we'll throw it back here. There is Cody Barnes. Is that still our third place rider in that XC2 class? I believe it is. So shout out to him, and looking like he's going to bring himself home a podium today. But the fearless leader of that Coastal Racing Gas team, Barry Hawk, nominated to the AMA Hall of Fame just a few years ago, getting nominated and also getting ultimately, what I guess, inducted. I was elected. I couldn't come up with the word inducted. So, but you do vote on it, and that's why I was saying electing. So another GNCC rider and off-road great, Mike Lafferty, heads up a lot of the KTM demo program. Has been with the brand for a very long time. The guys came up, were talking to me yesterday and said, hey, when you're on TV, if you wouldn't mind mentioning, any AMA lifetime member can vote for the induction ceremony. The nominees, Mike Lafferty is nominated, 8-time National Enduro champ, multi-time GNCC race winner. His nephew, Ryder Lafferty, out there competing today in that XC1 class, former top XC2 rider. So he has a great history and pedigree here in GNCC racing. Just a little shameless plug for Mike. He comes and attends many of these GNCC racing. If you are an AMA lifetime member, you can vote on that. Get out there, cast your vote for whoever, but, you know, maybe consider giving Mike the nod.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to give back to the GNCC racing community, and look at that. Do we have a pass for second place?
Johnny Girard up to second place, and he is getting very close to Stu Baylor.
Yeah, so he can see him in front of him there now.
Not far behind at all, and it looked like Ashburn was still there, just about a second or two behind. So both of those riders have significantly cut into Stu Baylor's gap.
We'll see what the gap is. Our producer, Adam Gordon, you know he's got his finger on the stopwatch in there, and he's going to let us know exactly what the gap is back to that rider on screen. The 969 of Johnny Girard, that, folks, is what you call full send mode. He is not worried about where the back end is. As long as the front end is pointed in the right direction, 7 seconds is the gap, and Jordan Ashburn still very much in this conversation for the win as well. These guys may come together here for what would be a very thrilling wheel-to-wheel-to-wheel battle coming to the finish between those three riders.
You're not going to want to miss a second of the action. We check back in. There is Gus Reardon, and didn't see Grant Davis right behind him in that shot. There went Davis, I believe.
Yeah, I would assume. Gus looking really good, really strong though, and not much course left at this point, but we'll have to see how it shapes up at the checkered.
So back to the Yamaha Racing live drone. We're seeing Jordan Ashburn tucked into the woods. Johnny Girard has made the pass for second place, and you saw just at the top of your screen Stu Baylor go by.
Yeah, that's 7 seconds. It could be so hard to make up, but one lapped rider, ill-placed. There's so many factors between here and the finish line that could go right, could go wrong. This one thing we know for sure, it's far from over.
Anything could happen, that's for sure, as we catch a glimpse of your leader making his way through.
Ooh, that was not 7 seconds right there. I don't know if you noticed, but Stu was like sideways coming out of that section, and now Johnny Girard is to the rear wheel of Stu Baylor. Folks, we've got a dogfight coming down to the finish line. If you're not there, get over there, get a safe distance. Jordan Ashburn still right in the mix, and who knows, these two could connect, and I mean, it's so slick right now. You've got all that excitement, all that exuberance. I want to go for the win. A little too much throttle. One of these guys find themselves on the ground. Jordan Ashburn may just ride his way right to a win.
Yeah, we'll see how friendly Johnny G is with Stu Baylor here, coming down to the last few corners.
Going to be exciting to see. We're trying to wait Thought we were going to hang on and see the rest of the XC1 field, but we got to keep our eyes on this battle up front. We check in at mile 10, the FMF PowerPoint. And it was, like you said, way less than 7 seconds now.
Yeah, and these lap riders have no idea what's coming up behind them, but it is a freight train of 2, if not 3 riders when we see them next, wheel to wheel and maybe to wheel.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave the booth as much as I don't want to. Jackson and myself got to get ready to head down. Whoever's going to come out in the top 3, we got to get ready to get an interview. I'll leave it with you guys.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Zach. Great job on the show today. They're going to go down and get the overall winner and our top 3 podium positions, as well as our top finisher in that XC2 Pro Lights class. We don't know who it's going to be because these things are far from decided. A lot of these races, coming down to the finish, it's kind of like somebody's got a big lead, but you can see how thick these lappers are. And just a camera shot ago, we saw Stu Baylor with an absolute shadow of Johnny Gerard, Ben. I mean, these guys wheel to wheel.
Yeah, we see a lot of lappers coming through. We really hope they don't play a part in this race, but that's just part of GNCC, and, you know, Stu could use them to his advantage. Johnny could use it to his, but as we're waiting on the leaders, we're going to see, but it's looking to be an exciting finish either way.
Yeah, we're at the FMF PowerPoint here at the 10-mile marker. We're waiting in anticipation of a new leader. Johnny Gerard is taking the lead away. This was unexpected, folks. Stu Baylor not giving up on it, though. He is right behind Johnny, looking like he is doing everything to try to get that lead back. Worked so hard to get it. Looked like he was marching away, and then out of nowhere, Johnny Gerard just drops the hammer, closes the gap, and has now made the pass. There is Jordan Ashburn on that Coastal Racing Gas in the number 3 spot. But now look at this. They're starting to get into lapped riders, and you know they are making all the noise that they can. But Johnny Gerard could not ask these lap riders to get out of the way fast enough because he has Stu Baylor hot on his heels.
Oh, yeah, and there's still time for Stu to remount and attack. We're going to see how they work their way through these lapped riders.
Well, and shoes on the other foot now, Ben. You said you'll see how nice Johnny Gerard is going to be with Stu Baylor in the final corners, because those are very, very off camber. The drone shot, the camera shots just do not do them justice. Very slick, very off camber. And with these guys being basically wheel to wheel, somebody can run it up on the inside. Hey, man, it's for a race win.
Yeah, of course. And I'm be curious to see whether Johnny or Stu wins this race. Curious to hear from Stu to see if Johnny coming up on him.
We have a shakeup in the XC2 class. Grant Davis has taken the lead away from Gus Reardon, and man, that was unexpected. Just a camera shot ago, it looked like Reardon had started to open up a gap.
Yep. You never know.
Shakeups all over the racetrack.
Yep.
We are waiting. Will it be the 969 of Gerard coming out of this section first? And it is. But still hot on his heels, eating his dust, eating the roost. Stu Baylor saying, I want that top spot back. I worked hard for it. I want to make a points gain today, not lose an additional 5 points. Oh, that lapped rider not making it easy for Johnny Gerard getting through there, but he looks back and looks like he lets both of those guys by there.
Oh, it looked like Stu Baylor was kind of right up side by side with Johnny Gerard as we lose him into the woods.
Well, we'll see him pop out here in a minute. They have to go down a hill. And no, this is the section coming to the hay bale, so we will catch him here.
Johnny G still out. Oh, no, that's a lapped rider.
No, there is actually a down and up in there. My bad. Yeah, you have to go down a hill, across the bottom, and then back up. So they should be coming just about any moment here.
Whole lot of lap riders still in play.
Yeah, yeah. And those riders, now that is a very tight single track section we talked about.
We see him
coming to the finish.
Still Johnny.
Still wheel to wheel. And, you know, we talked about it before with Stu Baylor, like kind of hanging back off of Jordan Ashburn. Hey, if you can't make a pass in there, you can say you can't make a pass, but when it's for the win and it's the final miles of the racetrack, you're not afraid to throw a front wheel in there just about any time, are you, Ben?
Yeah, and when it's tight, it's even difficult for these lap riders to get out of the way. And, you know, someone like Johnny with Stu right on his rear wheel, Johnny can't be as creative trying to go around these lap riders. It's just one of those things where you kind of got to be right place, right time.
We're going to follow this one as close as we can. The coverage is great, but the foliage is thick. We've got our Yamaha Racing live drone. You're going to see bits and pieces. Still Gerard, still Baylor. Just behind them there in the 3 spot, it is still Jordan Ashburn waiting in the wings. Should these two connect, should they get caught up with lappers, Ashburn still very much in this battle and holding on to that 3rd place position on the racetrack.
Definitely, and Stu definitely knows he's running out of time. He is right on the rear wheel of Johnny, trying to force him into a mistake, and if that's the case, Stu is close enough to make the pass happen.
Ben, if you had to take a guess right now, what are we talking for heart rates on these guys?
Definitely high. I don't think they're thinking about anything but just going as fast as they can at this point.
Yeah, if they have a heart rate monitor on, it is likely beeping and telling them to please stop. They are in the danger zone. In motocross, it might be Danger Boy Deegan, but out here, today, it's Johnny Gerard and Stu Baylor taking it into the danger zone. Absolutely redlined heart rates. They are pushing for everything they are worth now into the final mile of racetrack until they cross the finish line for what will be a checkered flag waving. We should see them on screen here in just a matter of seconds.
Still some lappers to tend to.
Yeah, and those riders still, there's enough track left in front of them that they will likely have to get around at least a few of those lappers. And then again, those off-camber turns coming into the finish line, and there we see just how close the racing action is. Stu Baylor takes a wide line trying to get out around. Johnny Gerard still not able to get around that lapper, and so quickly things are tightening up. Cole Whitmer, one of our Open A riders, working his way through. Watching back to see, we believe it is still the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn in the 3rd place spot, was up in 2nd just a few miles ago until Johnny Gerard turned on the afterburners, and there is Ashburn coming through in that final podium spot. We'll wait for the time correction when those XC2 riders finish, but those are your podium positions as they run now in the final less than 1 mile of racetrack.
Yeah, these lappers are going to be super frustrating for Johnny Gerard with Stu Baylor right on his rear wheel. I'm sure he's freaking out in his helmet a little bit, but if he can just stay calm and not make a mistake and honestly block the trail as best he can, it's going to be tough for Stu.
I really believe this one will come down to the final chicanes there on that off-camber, and they are literally mere seconds away. And here it is, folks. These are the final 2 turns around this left-hander. Johnny Gerard makes the right-hander, and there is Ricky Towery with the checkered flag waving. Johnny Gerard takes his 3rd win of the 2024 season. You can see just how excited he is, and Stu Baylor comes across the line, fist bump between the two of them. Look at the steam coming off of Stu Baylor's machine.
He was pushing that machine to the limit.
Absolutely sending it there in a smoke cloud there. Stu Baylor wanted that one bad, but he was denied. Johnny Gerard able to hold him off after making the pass with just a few miles to go, and takes the win here today at the Mason-Dixon GNCC.
Yeah, very good race for us to call. You see Stu there talking about the battle. He's obviously frustrated. We're going to have to wait and get an interview with him at the end and see what transpired and see how Johnny actually made the pass.
Yeah, this is one of those ones. There is Jordan Ashburn. He has come across. Ben, we're going to let you be the statistician. Refresh that screen. Looks like our XC2 riders should be checking in any moment, but we have an elated XC1 winner and what we believe likely is an overall winner. There we see Dante Oliveira coming across the line. Then it was Craig DeLong. Then it was Lyndon Snodgrass and Mike Witkowski. So that is your top 7 in that XC1 class have crossed the line. And it looks like in the background there does come the battle, and it is.
Who's it going to be?
Grant Davis gets the win in that XC2 Pro Lights class, followed just inches behind by his teammate Angus Reardon. And look at that, Josh Strang, Evan Smith, all of these guys leaving it out there, everything like we talked about. Craig DeLong, Mike Witkowski, all of those guys coming across the line so close together. Ben, give us the rundown. What is our overall?
Yeah, it looks like we have Johnny Gerard, 1st place Stu Baylor, then the XC2 duo of Grant Davis and Angus Reardon, 3-4. Then we drop back to Jordan Ashburn, Dante, Craig, Lyndon, Mike Witkowski, Evan Smith, Josh Strang, and then it looks like we are still waiting on the 3rd place of Cody Barnes in XC2.
Barnes, waiting on our final podium position in XC2. But we do know that our men on the scene, Zach Herron and Jackson Burrell, are down there. Grant Davis going deep on that final lap of racing. There we see his brother, Nick Davis, a former top XC2 rider himself, making the trip out to help his brother. Looks like he's got a pit board strapped around his midsection there, going out, telling him, hey, buddy, you got to dig deep if you want to get this win back. What looked like the push that was going to get the win done for Gus Reardon, Grant Davis able to answer back, and that is another one we will look forward to getting the update on how many passes were made, just how much chaos went out there. But the final podium position goes to the XC2 winner, Grant Davis.
Yeah, that was a tough race to predict, you know. At one point it looked like Grant Davis was going to have it as we...
Yep, and it looks like we do have Johnny Gerard standing by with an interview to give us in his own words with our man Zach Herron how it went down today.
Hey guys, I am here with an elated Johnny Gerard, man. First thing you asked me, did XC2 get the overall? How many pit boards were you getting about that? And take us through the pass, man. What a race, what a finish.
Yeah, man, I was getting pit boards all race, you know, XC2 plus 35, and I was like, man, they're on the gas, and I took the front end once. It was really slick out there, and hard to make up time. But that last lap, man, I just rode like nothing really mattered. And yeah, obviously it worked. And a couple close calls. Me and Stu came together a couple times. He was riding like an animal, and Yeah, he ended up just washing the front end, and that's how I got around him. I got Jordan going up the hill, and yeah, it was a hectic last lap, but hey, man, got her done.
Hey, we saw you hanging on for dear life, man. You've been telling us, I'm not focused on the battles, I'm focused on the war. Seemed like you wanted this battle win.
Yeah, today I was focused on the battle for sure. You know, maybe could have rode a little smarter out there, but hey, it worked and it paid off. So happy and all smiles.
He's going to take the battle win, and he's leading the war. Johnny Gerard, your XC1 winner.
All right, there we go. So you heard the excitement in his voice, Ben. A guy, we wouldn't say that Johnny's excitable or anything, but he was pretty thrilled, pretty ecstatic to get the win here today, and sounds like a lot of things happened out there on the race course.
Yeah, definitely. It was exciting racing. He talks about he's more focused on winning the war, winning the championship, but hey, winning these battles definitely helps. So he's doing that as we are about to hear from our second place finisher, Stu Baylor.
Yeah, guys, I'm here with your second place on the day, Stu Baylor. Stu, man, what a ride here today. Y'all were able to knock the XC2 back off of the top charts. You secured the second place. Take us through your day.
Yeah, it was a bit bumpy right off the start. I was decent, I think fourth, fifth in the woods, and Ricky went down right in front of me, and there was just nothing I could do, and we were both, I think, got up and towards the back of the pack. I know I was pretty far back there. Had to charge, had to make some passes, and man, these tracks just haven't been friendly this year for passing. Man, there's a lot of stringer out there on what few insides are there, and you know, I've said it before. It's like it gets bumpy out there, so had to do some aggressive passing to try to get to the front, and you know, from there it was just trying to manage, and I got a cushion and thought I had what I needed. I knew at one point I was over 30 seconds out of the overall from XC2 once I took over the lead, and I knew I needed to put my head down. I did that, got back into the overall lead, and from there, you know, I was just trying to play the pit board game and control that lead and manage that lead, and knew Ashburn was second, and nobody seemed to be gaining, and I guess I just was misinformed on that last lap and just made a slight mistake, and Johnny got right there at the finish, or a mile back, and man, it's a dogfight. I tried everything I could, but you know, sometimes everything you got isn't quite good enough. But man, the bike worked great. The team was good, man. Everything else was good. Just a slight mistake there, thanks to the whole Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki program and everybody standing behind me.
All right, everybody, that is Stu Baylor, your second place here today.
Well, there you go. So it sounds like Stu did not realize that Johnny Gerard had gotten into second. Last pit board saying it was Jordan Ashburn, and he was holding a gap. Obviously, even following it along with all the camera shots that we had, Johnny just kind of he really turned it up there in that couple miles of racing, made up a gap on Jordan, made the pass, and really made up time quickly. So it kind of caught Stu Baylor off guard, it sounds like.
Yeah, I was curious to hear, but I kind of had that idea as we saw Johnny G close up really fast, and the second he was on his wheel, next thing you know, he was out front. So yeah, obviously took Stu, you know, by surprise as we are on our way down to talk to Grant Davis here, the leader of XC2.
Yeah, guys, I'm here with your third overall, Grant Davis, your winner of the XC2 class. Man, you have been on fire here this season, sitting fourth on the overall for the series points going into today. Take us through your race.
Yeah, it was a good race for sure. I got the whole shot, I think, or I was up there at least. And then I got into the lead. And then I let Liam by, and me and Liam kind of paced off each other. And then something happened to Liam's bike, I'm pretty sure, and I got around him and I put my head down, tried to make a gap. And I actually broke my ribs a week and a half ago. And it was already hard enough. And of course I had to slide out and land right on him and knock the wind out of myself and everything. And then Gus caught me, and he passed me, and I got him like a mile before the finish, so it was a good race for sure. I'm happy.
An incredible race here today. One more race before we go into summer break. How do you feel going into Snowshoe?
Oh, it's one of my favorite races of the year. I love the rocks, and I get to start on the front row with the big dogs, so it'll be fun.
All right, everybody, that's your third place overall, Grant Davis.
So third place overall, your winner in that XC2 class. And that was what I alluded to a few times during the broadcast. Grant had told me on Thursday night he had a big crash. Hadn't actually been able to ride too much the last couple weeks because of those broken ribs. I was going to let him break the news or not. That was up to him. Came in and he said, hey, man, I know I can dig deep. I can put it on the podium. I guess I just assumed he was talking about an XC2 podium, but apparently he was looking for an overall podium, and he got that done today with third place overall, taking that win in the XC2. And But the rider rounding out the podium in the XC1 class, Jordan Ashburn, put in a great ride today, and it looks like we have our man Zach Herron down there, and he is going to get us an update from Jordan himself.
Absolutely, guys. We could not forget about Jordan Ashburn. What a ride. Take us through things from your perspective, man. We saw you make some quick moves. He's adjusting the hat.
Yeah.
It's swole up after a long day of riding, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's a solid day. It got off a decent start, and I think I was fourth or so, and then everybody was just following the first couple miles, and I really had to find that, that point of how hard you could push and kind of feel it out. And I found it pretty early and kind of just led the day, and I felt really comfortable. And there toward the end, I just got a hands tore a little bit and just got off pace. And it's pushed hard all day trying to keep up on XC2. I know they were just there all day, and yeah, man, it was a good day. I feel good. The bike was good. The team was good. Everything. Yeah, it was a great day. I'm happy to be on the podium.
Hey, absolutely, guys. Finishing third in XC1 and just missing that overall podium. Jordan Ashburn having a solid Mason-Dixon.
All right, there we go. So a happy Jordan Ashburn there with the family. Rightfully so. I mean, a great ride, rounding out the XC1 podium and finishing in that fourth place spot, or fifth place spot overall, actually, with time correction. Man, what a race we had here today, Ben. There we see Stu Baylor rolling to the line, got the beats on, got the tunes pumping. He was pumped up. Seemed like a very serious Stu Baylor rolling to the starting line, knowing he needed to make some points up today. Things got a little hectic on the start. You can see just how slick it was. Riders coming across. But the 178 Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki getting out front and grabbing the early lead in this one. Then it was Jordan Ashburn, Mike Witkowski, Ryder Lafferty up there early as well, but Jordan Ashburn marching his way to the front and taking a commanding lead early in the race here. We did see Stu Baylor a little further back. Jordan Ashburn still pushing early on in this one on lap 1. Mike Witkowski was hanging tough there in the number 2 spot. Lyndon Snodgrass, great ride for him today. May not translate into the overall finish that I'm sure he was wanting. We saw Josh Strang with a really resurgence of a ride today. Had some struggles in the pit that dropped him back a little bit, but still within sight of a podium position coming to the finish. An absolute best ride for him so far, I would argue, in 2024. Johnny Gerard starting to work his way up after what you would probably call a slow start, but the man on a mission in the middle of the race was that man right there. 5:14, Stu Baylor. We did see our early race overall leader, Liam Draper, had a crash and did exit the race. We are told he's okay, nothing broken, so good news for that team and that rider. But Stu Baylor having some troubles as well with his goggles, shaking out some dirt, but then after that, right back on a mission, stretching out the lead with a little help from a tip over from Jordan Ashburn. Johnny Gerard very nearly going down in that same corner. At this point in the race, Ben, it looked like Stu had things in hand. He had a pretty good gap, and then all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, we saw a big charge from both Jordan Ashburn and Johnny Gerard, and this is when it started coming into the last lap of racing. Full send there from Johnny Gerard on the final lap. You pointed out, as long as that bike is headed somewhat in the right direction, Johnny was not going to let off the throttle, and then just as quickly as that, we came to the power point. Johnny Gerard able to wrestle away the lead. Stu Baylor himself saying, man, I just had a little mistake. I didn't realize Johnny was that close. I thought it was Jordan, and I thought I had enough of a gap, and then it was just a waiting game coming to the finish, working their way through lappers, but Johnny Gerard crosses the line first, and man, he really let his emotions out coming across the finish line, doing everything he could to try to blow that KTM 350 up, revving it, but Stu Baylor's bike, you can tell, really wrung out in the final miles there, but a lot of camaraderie between these two, fist bumps and smiles, but Stu Baylor, as happy as he was to finish second, you could tell a little bummed out to miss out on the win here today, but that was how it shook out. Stu Baylor with the win, second place overall, or Johnny Gerard with the win, Stu Baylor second place overall, and then Grant Davis rounding out the final podium position. The top 10 results unofficial: Johnny Gerard, Stu Baylor, Grant Davis, Gus Reardon second place in that XC2 class and fourth place overall. Jordan Ashburn, our visiting rider, Dante Oliveira, solid ride for him in the sixth place overall position. Our defending champ coming off that win just a few weeks ago, only managing seventh place today, but still a solid ride. Again, all of these guys really within sight of a podium position coming to the finish line. Lyndon Snodgrass, Mike Witkowski, and Evan Smith rounding out the top 10 overall here today from the Mason-Dixon GNCC. Well, Ben, our man Mikey Wayne is not here, so we're unsupervised, and we're going to close the show out ourselves. But we do know what we talk about now is our final thoughts, so I'm going to throw it to you. You were in the booth all day today. What was it that you saw out in the action that really stood out to you today?
Yeah, honestly, there was some intense racing all day, and I think the thing I'm taking away is that how close the whole field was. The top 2 XC2 guys and the top 10 XC1, honestly, it was just very unpredictable, and that makes for good racing for us. We still have Johnny G and Stu Baylor kind of solidifying themselves as the championship contenders, but yeah, the battle for the podium spot is kind of a toss-up, and it's been really fun to watch and call the racing.
Yeah, great racing action today, and I think for me, the standout was what looked to be coming to the finish line on the final lap. It looked like Stu Baylor was going to take a 5-point chunk out of that 29-point gap that Johnny Gerard had coming into today. Instead, Johnny G flips the script, adds another 5 to it, so now it's a 34-point gap. So what looked almost certain in the final miles of racing that Stu Baylor was going to chip away at the gap, Johnny Gerard able to, again, put those extra 5 points, making it now 34 points going into Snowshoe, and that's that magic one race number, 30 points for a race win. So the big takeaway, if you're Johnny Gerard, great day. If you're Stu Baylor, second place, phenomenal day, rode very, very well, but losing 5 more points, valuable championship points in that championship hunt, which you know is his ultimate and his team's goal for the year. So that was the takeaway for me. And, man, the kids were on fire. Grant Davis, Gus Reardon up front in the overall throughout the entirety. Liam Draper, shout out to him as well. We'll hope to have him back healthy at the next one. He was riding very well. So those XC2 guys were just on rails early in this one.
Yeah, good racing all around, like I said.
Yeah, so we've got, obviously, our action's done here for today. They're over there. They're doing the podium celebration, spraying some champagne. But we're far from done with our RacerTV.com upcoming broadcast. Just a few weeks from now, we've got GNCC Round 9 from Snowshoe. On the 22nd will be our Pro ATV race. The following day, Sunday, we will obviously have these guys at it again, battling for that championship. We will see Stu Baylor, Johnny Gerard, and all the rest. From there, we will go to the Lorettalands Amateur National, and you look at that gap of time there, you're not reading that wrong, 7:30 to 8:03 daily. So all the way from the 30th of July up until the 3rd of August, make sure you tune in every day for the best amateurs in the world traveling for the Lorettalands Amateur Motocross National. Just tight and furious racing action there all week long at the ranch. And then we do have our highlight episodes from GNCC every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on RacerTV.com. So tune in, keep up with all your racing action. And today, the live presentation has been brought to you by everybody here on the list. We can't thank our man, Mikey Waynes, a little under the weather today, headed out to get himself all rested and ready for Howard's Hole and Snowshoe. Mikey Waynes, Jackson Burrell, Zach Herron, myself, and Ben Kelly joining us in the booth today. As always, thank you, Ben. We'd rather see you out on the racetrack, but we appreciate you being in here. Our camera operators, JC, Matt, Josh, Mike, Leah, Kirsten, and Cameron. Our drone pilot, the man with the Yamaha Racing Live drone, Gabe Scholl. And then our executive producer, Kerry Russell. Our producer, Adam Gordon. Director, Don Hampton. Engineer in charge, Jordan McFadden. And our manager, Dan Reinhardt. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Racer TV. We'll see you again here in 3 weeks for the Snowshoe GNCC, and we will see you back at the races.